Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon once again. Indeed, it is a pleasure for us to be gathered here at this great auditorium at Daystar University. First of all, let me start by apologizing because we are running a bit behind schedule. But this was due to some technical challenges, but now all those hitches have been resolved, and we are very ready to begin and this debate has been organized courtesy of FIDA-Kenya. So before we start officially, or rather to kick us off officially, I would like us to start with a word of prayer. Because yes, we are advocates in the making, but still here we believe in God, so we want to commit everything to the Lord as we begin officially. So let me call upon Miss Leah Kigwatha to come up here and open for us with a word of prayer. Karibu sana Leah, we can give her a round of applause.
Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this afternoon. Thank you for protecting our time and protecting us and enabling us to come together and listen to the ladies who are vying for the Vice President of the Law Society of Kenya, to hear their agenda, to hear what they aspire to do for the society. And we are so grateful, and we pray that you give us insight, that you give us ideas, be with the candidates, help them to be able to articulate what it is that they will do for the society, for lawyers, and even for the wider Kenyan society. We ask for your presence, we ask for your guidance, we ask for your wisdom, and we ask all these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Now we can start officially. My name is Angela Mwadumbo. I wear several hats, but for purposes of today's function or today's event, I have the distinct honor of serving as the FIDA board chair. With us here, we have several board members here. They can just wave. We have Madam Cynthia Mudai, who is a board member. You can stand and wave. Hey, she has been captured, eh? Video? Yes. We also have the one who has just stepped down. Her name is Leah. She's also a board member. Yes, she's here. You can wave. Yes, thank you. We have our very own vice chair, Madam Miriam Bomet. And we also have our chairperson here, but she will just wave very briefly because she will have an opportunity to speak. We also have members of the secretariat led by our deputy executive director, Ms. Janet Anyango, and our very own executive director, Madam Sophie Kaiberia. So this is a very auspicious occasion because we have 3 aspirants for LSK Vice Chair. I know most of the time when we have the LSK elections, we focus mostly on the chairperson. But today we want to shift the spotlight to the Vice President because as you will see in the course of the debate, they have a very, very vital role to play. And I don't want to belabor the role that they will play because it will come out during the debate. And without further ado, because we are a bit behind time, please put your hands together for our board chairperson, Madam Christine Kungu. She gives the introductory remarks and she sets the stage for the event. Again, we clap until she gets here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. The FIDA-Kenya partners present, the FIDA-Kenya board members present, the FIDA-Kenya members present, our colleagues from the Law Society of Kenya, our students from Daystar University, our future advocates, the Daystar University members present, our virtual audience, our media partners, our panelists and moderators present, distinguished friends of FIDA-Kenya, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinguished honor on behalf of FIDA-Kenya to welcome you to the Vice Presidential debate convened in the run-up to the Law Society of Kenya elections coming up in the next 2 weeks or so. We want to thank our partner, LSK, and all our partners for their collaboration, and we appreciate the candidates for availing themselves on this important platform. Ladies and gentlemen, we at FIDA, we celebrated 40 years last year. And towards that, we've drawn our technical legal support from Law Society of Kenya membership, from the ordinary members, affiliate and honorary categories within FIDA-Kenya. The membership, as per its governing instrument, is primarily constituted of female advocates who are also members of the Law Society of Kenya and who practice across all the 47 counties in our republic. These members have remained very committed, very passionate to our FIDA-Kenya's objective, our mission, our vision, and have been conscious to commit to, themselves to create a society that is free from all forms of discrimination against women and girls, from all forms of injustices. By virtue of their membership in both FIDA-Kenya and the Law Society of Kenya, these advocates offer pro bono legal services and representation. They offer legislative and policy reforms, public education to the country, conduct research, lobbying, and advocacy services on advancing gender equality as a sustainable way to strengthen capacities in various practice areas. This debate is not merely a campaign event. It is a moment of accountability. And I'm happy that all the three candidates are FIDA-Kenya members. It reflects the legal professional commitment to continuously engage in the human rights discourse and advance existing collaborations through an open engagement within its membership. As advocates, we are the custodians of the rule of law. We believe in constitutionalism, we believe in justice, and we believe in giving opportunities to people who can offer us leadership within the society that will mirror our values as advocates. We are honored to host this forum because we believe that strong principled leadership within our professional bodies like the Society of Kenya has a direct impact on access to justice, which is our umbrella within FIDA-Kenya. We also believe that this forum will allow us to bring in skills for the next Vice President of Law Society for the protection of human rights and the integrity of our legal system. Inclusive leadership, gender equality, and respect for diversity are principles for FIDA. They are essential to the credibility and effectiveness of this society. Cognizant of this as FIDA, we continue to forge partnership with Law Society of Kenya and to support whoever will be elected as the president and the vice president. FIDA-Kenya is glad to be hosting this debate that features our members, mentioning them one by one. We have Elizabeth Wangui, Wanjeri, we have Debora Ajwang, and we have Teresia Wavinya Nicholas. Additionally, our membership was engaged in curating the questions that shall be presented by our moderators on the floor today. Our moderators carefully selected distinguished men and women at the Law Society of Kenya in a bid to ensure impartiality and sanctity of the processes leading towards this debate. We have selected our moderators skillfully and very deliberately in terms of inclusivity. Confidentiality was upheld during the preparation of this debate to ensure the sanctity of this activity. In conclusion, I wish to welcome you all in a very special way to support FIDA as we begin a new year. We are geared towards acquiring our model house, the FIDA Edition House. We welcome you to join. For those of you who are here and you're not FIDA members, we welcome you. This is your opportunity for the next 3 hours to join FIDA. We welcome you, those who are already FIDA members, to support our lifetime membership, as well as the male advocates who are here. We welcome you to be friends of FIDA. We commit to investing in mobilizing younger generations in the quest of mobilizing resources to support initiatives towards creating a society that is free from discrimination against women and girls. In this regards, we have aligned several fundraising initiatives this year towards the purchase of a mediation center. We invite you on the 13th of March for our Royal Golf Club event towards this initiative and in commemoration of the International Women's Day. This will also be will be followed by a public-led charity walk dubbed Steps for Justice on the 23rd of May, and we welcome everyone who is here. With those few remarks, I wish to thank you for coming. I wish us a successful debate. May the best woman win. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for those remarks. Now, I would like to call upon our Executive Director, Madam Sophie Kaiberia, to come here and do some agenda setting. And just to remind all of us, we are streaming live on the FIDA-Kenya YouTube page, and we're also streaming live on the FIDA-Kenya Facebook page. So tell a friend to log in so that we can all follow this very important proceedings live. Karibu sana, Sophie.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. I'm too happy to be here and experience this momentous occasion. So mine is very simple. I will read out the rules of engagement. We set out some rules of engagement to make this process quite efficient and also to assist in our quality purposes. So these rules of engagement were shared with our candidates, and I shall quickly read through just for purposes of your knowledge on what should be done during the audience and also for the virtual attendees. So for the candidates, response time is 2 minutes. And like you've heard from our chair, we have 2 seasoned moderators who will be coordinating this. The candidates have to mute their microphones when they're not speaking, and they'll be given equal time to respond. Physical materials, I can see there is none currently here. They're not supposed to be here. Physical materials for campaigns. These include pre-written notes, props, and supplied material, and any other material. The candidates will be issued with materials to write with. That includes a notebook and a pen during the process. In terms of interaction, no direct questioning. Candidates are barred from speaking to each other, no consultations are allowed, and then there is a requirement for the candidates to be compliant with the moderation, must follow the moderator's instructions at all times. For the audience, you must maintain strict silence, no reactions are allowed, there are exemptions when you need to upload, and that shall be instructed by the moderators. In terms of questions, you are allowed to ask questions. There's a segment for questions and answer, which shall be done during the process, and there'll be no follow-ups from the audience during that time. Prohibited materials, like I've said, no campaign gear is allowed during the whole debates period, and all are required to maintain neutrality and non-partisanship. No cheering per sections or organized support groups are allowed during the process. Also, mobile phones must be on silent to ensure that we have quality recording. There is a photographer and a videographer on set, and that should be the official photographer and videographer. So you are, as the audience, you are required to adhere to those rules. Also, for the virtual audience that is watching us from YouTube and our Facebook pages, just note that strict participation is going to be done. You are allowed to ask questions which shall be submitted to the moderators. You will not be allowed to use multiple accounts, and no spamming, manipulation, or coordinated behavior is allowed in this era of technology. Hate speech, harassment, and misinformation, impersonation, and abusive conduct is not allowed. You are required to be respectful in your engagement. no hate speech, like I've said, no flooding the system, and no spam is allowed. And please kindly stay on topic. We are here to issue visibility for our vice presidential candidates for the Law Society of Kenya, and that is the topic. Questions submitted, the questions that will be submitted to candidates are curated by the moderators, and we are not, the moderators are the ones who will be doing the questions, and there'll be no bias during the process. Promotional content and endorsements or attacks are disallowed, and FIDA reserves the right to hide, delete, mute, block, or report any comments or users without prior notice in case of when you do not comply. Threats or violence or intimidation may be escalated to platform administrators or law enforcement agencies. Repeat violations may result in removal from the live streaming space. Privacy recording, FIDA may prohibit unauthorized redistribution of this feed, so we maintain the sole custodianship of this feed. And also note that any submitted comments may be displayed publicly and used for the broadcast. So at all time, we maintain ownership of such. Participants, we will acknowledge your live streaming requests and feeds, and any delayed moderation or filtering is not because we do not recognize your active participation. And with that, I give back the mic to the secretary to invite our moderators and kickstart the process.
Thank you very much, Madam Edie. I assure you, although those rules sound very stiff and very serious rules, don't worry, because we have our moderators here will moderate the session so smoothly that you will not notice the rigorousness of the rules. So we have two moderators here. Our first moderator is Mr. Samuel Akwale. He has been an advocate of the High Court of Kenya for the past 28 years. He has worked as an associate at various law firms in Kenya and also as a state counsel in the Department of Public Prosecutions in the homicide and serious fraud sections. He is also a staff attorney at the Kenya Field Office of the International Justice Mission, which is a non-profit organization that advocates against police malfeasance and represents child victims of sexual violence. At present, he is a senior lecturer at the Kenya School of Law in the CPD department and has taught, amongst other subjects, trial advocacy, law of tort, and family law. He has been actively involved as an auditor in over 40 legal audit and compliance consultancies over a period of 15 years, and in a research project on impact of paralegals in the justice system. He has developed training courses, and he coordinates trainings on litigation skills for in-house lawyers, training on attaining sustainability for state agencies, and investigation and courtroom skills. He also enjoys traveling, photography, polishing shoes, washing dishes, watching motor rallying sports, and providing spiritual and life skills, inspiration, and mentorship to young people. Finally, he also serves on the board of a mission agency that runs, among others, a hospital and a school. A round of applause for our first moderator. Our second moderator is Madam Luciana Wamboi Thuo, who is an election law and governance specialist and a legal consultant. She has over 14 years of experience in electoral dispute resolution, legislative reform, and governance advisory across Africa. She holds an LLM in human rights and democratization in Africa. This is from the University of Pretoria, an LLB from the University of Nairobi, a postgraduate diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law, and a diploma in realizing human rights through criminal law from a university in Finland. Forgive me, I cannot pronounce that name. She has held key roles, including research coordinator for Kenya's Judiciary Committee on Elections, a researcher for the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, and a legal analyst for Sierra Leone's Cross-Party Committee on Election Systems and Management Bodies Review. In academia, she has served as a lecturer and an associate dean at Kabarak University, and as a visiting lecturer at the University of the Gambia, earning multiple awards for teaching excellence. She has also authored several texts for reference for election dispute resolution, and she continues to provide strategic advice to governments, electoral management bodies, and civil society organizations, and is currently serving as a legal advisor on electoral reforms for the government of Sierra Leone. She is also a very sought-after moderator and speaker with a focus on gender justice, inclusive governance, and democratic accountability. She's a member of the Institute of African Women in Law, International Commission of Jurists, that is ICJ, FIDA-Kenya, and the Law Society of Kenya. A round of applause for Ms. Thuo. Now, with that introduction, let me hand over to the moderators for them to take us through the next segment of this very important event. Over to you.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to this debate. On behalf of FIDA-Kenya, I am very pleased to welcome you to the Vice Presidential debate for the Law Society of Kenya. This debate is taking place at a very crucial moment for the profession and for the country as a whole, because we have questions of constitutionalism, professional integrity, inclusion, and institutional courage, which are on the table and which need urgent deliberation over. We will have a debate today that focuses on 3 key thematic areas, after which we will open up the floor to discussion. We want to hear from the candidates their positions on women's rights and freedoms, the public role of the Law Society, and what they can do to also strengthen the society from within and make legal practice sustainable. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions which we pose, and if there is a clarification needed or a rebuttal, we will give them a minute each to respond. So we would like to begin by formally requesting our candidates to please join us on the podium. We will start with Teresia Wavinya. Kindly give her a round of applause. Next, we will have Elizabeth Wanjeri. And last but not least, we'll have Debora Ajwang. As they take their seats, I would like to draw their attention to Mary Goretti on my left, who will be our timekeeper for the session. So as they make their interventions, I will ask them to have in mind their time allocation. Mary Goretti will be kind enough to alert them at every juncture how much time they have left, and when their time runs out, they will be required to stop and resume their seats. We will just give our final candidates a moment. So as we said earlier, we will have 3 sessions of discussion, the first of which is to hear the views of the candidates on women's rights and freedoms. So in this first segment, we would like to hear what their leadership, should they ascend to the vice presidency, will portend for feminist leadership, for protection of women advocates, for addressing gender-based harassment, including in online spaces, and also dismantling systemic barriers that limit participation and leadership of women and other marginalized groups within the LSK structures. So we will move from my right coming to my left, so we will start in that order. So Teresia, the first question is for you. What does feminist leadership mean to you in practice, and how would it shape your priorities as Vice President of the Law Society?
Thank you very much for that question. First and foremost, as a current council member, we have been able to push for inclusivity of female appointment in the boards. And that is something that I will also want to continue and encourage, not just at the national office, but also at the branch level, because branches usually have opportunities to also nominate females in the boards, that they usually push it to the National Council for ratification. Also involve the chapter leadership to equip and do the same thing that we've been doing at the national office. Secondly, on the issue of the systematic bias, it is high time as a society that usually regulates its membership to also start actively protecting the most vulnerable among us in the society. And these are the young lawyers, especially on the issue of employment, on the issue of promotion, and also on the issue of sexual harassment. Currently, as a law society, we have a sexual harassment and anti-bullying policy, which was effected in 2019. But up to date, we have not created enough awareness. It is high time that as we create that enough awareness, we also sum it up with trainings for members to understand how best to do the reporting, training and encourage trust, especially on the issue of reporting. Because majority of the young people who are, or even majority of the people out there who are bullied, who are sexually harassed at the workplace, or even by external factors, rarely do they report because of the issue of confidentiality. So it is also high time, as you're creating awareness about the sexual harassment policy and anti-bullying, we also create mechanisms to encourage reporting by ensuring confidentiality, which is going to cover and protect the personnel and the whistleblowers so that they do not face retaliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresia. Just for fairness, we will ask the same question to Elizabeth Wanjeri, and then the same question to Debora. And allow me, I forgot to do this first, so allow me to switch back to Teresia. We wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the audience. We assume the audience knows you, so allow me to take it back to you. We have heard your first point, but allow me to just give you a couple of minutes. Tell us what you want the audience to take away from who you are and what you will bring.
Good afternoon, the larger membership of the Law Society through the FIDA debate. My name is Teresia Wavinya Nicholas, Tess, Mama Welfare, Mama Rat. I come before you as a leader who chose to give her best years of her youth to the service and improvement of our society. I come before you as a young leader whom did not wait to be invited to lead, but whom, together with my peers, saw the opportunity and we started building for an effective law society that includes all. In 2017, together with my colleagues, we were able to see that even before we joined the profession, we were able to see the gap where majority of the young lawyers' issues were not visible, were not ventilated, neither were they handled. Together with my colleagues, we went ahead and formed the Young Bar Association. I am that kind of a leader who is very transformative, a leader who is very visionary, and a leader whom, when they see a loophole, instead of turning the blind eye, I will look at the bigger opportunity of including all and sundry and see how best we can bring out a solution for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, likewise, please introduce yourself to the audience and what you would like them to take away from you as a candidate.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, members in the audience and those attending virtually. My name is Wanjeri Elizabeth Wangui. I am an advocate of 19 years standing. I practice in Mombasa. My law firm is EW Wanjeri and Company Advocates. What I would like people to know about me is that over the years, I have participated in a lot of activities for the society, both as a member and in leadership. I currently serve the society as a LSK Coast representative, and I have done a lot for the profession. Key among my key achievements have been the reduction of CPD expenses, especially the online CPD expenses, which have been very good for the young advocates. And it is through that motion that members nicknamed me and gave me the moniker Wanjeri wa CPD. Another key contribution that I have done is being able to champion for certificate of good standing to be issued free of charge for fully paid up members. Other things that I have done, of course, is the introduction of a conflict of interest register for purposes of accountability and transparency, among other things. So as I seek to lead you as the next Vice President of the Law Society of Kenya, my agenda is anchored on welfare and practice issues, which are the key issues that the Vice President deals with. And among my key highlights will be looking out how we can advocate for the legal profession and be able to even expand our practice areas. I am motivated by impactful service that leads to positive solutions that lead to welfare, proper welfare, and professional progression for the members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wanjeri. Over to you, Debora. Please introduce yourself to the audience. What would you like them to take away from you as a candidate?
Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Debora Ajwang. I have 19 years in practice. And why do I think I'm best suited for this position? Because I come with governance expertise. I come with regulatory and institutional reform practice experience. I also come with a highly diverse practice experience. I have practiced across all sectors: private sector, private practice, government. I have also practiced in the non-governmental organizations, and I'm also a corporation secretary. So I have diverse experience, and I therefore understand practice matters across all those diverse spaces. And finally, I have a proven track record for service, a proven heart for service. I have served you ever since I was a young lawyer. I remind young lawyers that I was also once young. I'm hitting 20 now, but I was also once young. And I started by serving in the Young Lawyers Committee. After that, I served in the In-House Lawyers Committee. We set up the In-House Lawyers Committee. And then after that, I served in the CPD Committee. And of note, which is the only thing I'll mention today because of time, is that I came up with the idea of specialized CPDs. That is my brainchild and something that I'm very proud of. And I'll be enhancing that and progressing that idea to a legal training institute. So with that, I think that gives you an idea of who I am.
Thank you, Debora. Thank you, ladies. So I'll come back to Wanjeri for the same question I had asked Teresia, which is, what does feminist leadership mean to you in practice, and how would it shape your priorities should you ascend to the vice presidency of the society?
Thank you. I think the legal profession is known for advocating for members. And it is interesting that even as we have to advocate for other people in society, within our ranks, there still remains a lot of inequality. If you look at areas like career progression, work safety, the legal profession leads in being the unsafest, some of the unsafest places, inequality even in the pay that is there for both women, and even poor work-life integration. So I think for me, my idea of feminist leadership would be a leadership that makes this a reality and not just a slogan. Yes.
While you still have the mic, Wanjeri, when you say you want to make it a reality, practically what would that mean? What would we expect for you to put in place? And I have in mind, let me just foreground this. I have in mind the sentiment that there is that the market is flooded with women, that now we must now empower men as opposed to women. So I want to hear practically what would you be putting in place, and how would you counter those narratives that we've done enough?
I don't think enough has been done, but if you look at the challenges that women face in the profession, I'll give an example even for nursing mothers, for pregnant women, because I myself have also been a victim, where I remember the first time I went to look for a job, and the questions they were asking were, are you going to get married? Are you going to have children? Such things. So the stereotypes are still there. So let us put in place measures that actually promote flexible working hours, even for nursing mothers, and also enable women now to progress in their career and be retained in the legal profession, because most of them give up and don't even remain in the legal profession. Yes.
Debora, I'm coming to you, same question. So let's start with, first of all, what feminist leadership means to you. What would you do differently from what has already been done within the society? Then I'll follow up.
Okay. Feminist leadership for me, and I'll narrow down to the legal profession, because the mandate, we have a specific mandate as a legal profession. And how I'd look at it is, first and foremost, I'd like to say that we don't only have gender issues in the legal profession. So I think it's important to say, as much as we're having this conversation today, we have various challenges which, bedevil all our members. But narrowing down to our women lawyers or our female advocates, we have serious concerns about sexual harassment. We have serious concerns about disparity in pay. So we have 2 advocates doing the same role, but you'll find that the woman lawyer is paid less. And also we have just work environments, environments that are not conducive. I was surprised the other day to find out that we actually have law firms where you're not given maternity leave. And if you go on maternity leave, it amounts to a dismissal. Most of the time, constructive dismissal. So having said that, those are our concerns specifically in the profession. What would I propose to do? I think these solutions have to be institutionalized. We must have policies. We have a sexual harassment policy which we don't implement. Implementation means we revise how far we've come, and 2, we have specific actions like the whistleblower line. That's 1. 2, we must have policies and regulations on the employment space. The employment space, I have 30 seconds. I'll request to be given just 30 seconds more so I can finish. So if you don't have policies, then you'll not be able to regulate. And how is this going to be done? I'm proposing a framework where we have self-reporting. Law firms take out certificates every year. So you start by having them self-report so that they tell you, as LSK, do you have HR policies in the first place? How many lawyers have you employed and employees? What are their contractual terms? Do you have HR policies? Because you cannot tell a firm to implement policies which they don't have. So with self-reporting, we then form a baseline for which, when we actually now get the reports of firms that are violating these policies, you have a baseline because they've self-reported. And that helps to improve and change the culture. That's what I propose. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to our next question, which my co-moderator will ask, I will kindly request candidates to not have their phones facing them as they answer questions. So if you have your phone with you, please place it face down, just so we know that you're not referring to any extraneous material. Thank you for your collaboration. My co-moderator will take the next question.
All right, so we go to the next area, and here we are focusing on cyberbullying and protection of female advocates. So we'd want to hear from you, beginning with Teresia. How will you, serving as the Vice President of the Law Society and working with FIDA-Kenya and other actors, respond to cyberbullying, harassment, and intimidation of female advocates, and even judicial officers, especially in the digital space, because that seems to be a growing concern about the cyberbullying.
Thank you for that question. As I had earlier on mentioned, we have a sexual harassment and anti-bullying policy of 2019 that is in place. First and foremost, we need to create awareness across board for all 26,000 plus advocates that we have to actually emulate and read it and understand that policy. Secondly, on the issue of implementation, we have faced so much resistance. I will quote an example. The other day when I was doing door-to-door, one of the young lawyers asked me, why is the Law Society silent when young lawyers are being bullied? And I posed it back to her and asked her, are you aware of the sexual harassment and anti-bullying policy? And majority of them will tell you, no, they are not aware that this is there. So first and foremost, create the awareness to all advocates. Secondly, on the issue of reporting, since the mechanisms that are there are not effective as we thought, we need now to create an independent committee that will include all lawyers, that is all cadres of lawyers, seniors, mid-bar, and young lawyers. Why am I proposing an independent committee away from the institutional committee? So that we ensure that confidentiality is kept. Secondly, we ensure that these young lawyers who are being harassed, they will feel free because some of the members also form part of that independent committee. Thirdly, is to the issue of partnership. We don't just need the FIDA partnership, but we also need all the other stakeholders that speak against sexual harassment, that speak against anti-bullying, and also I request to be given 30 more seconds. Thank you. And also to incorporate what the Institute of the African Lawyer Institution has been able to do on the issue of marketing their gender and empowerment equality policy. This policy model usually enshrines, especially on the issue of implementation and how they can ensure retaliation of the whistleblower is not felt. Because majority of the people are afraid and scared to come out and be able to report because of fear of being retaliated, fear of losing job opportunities and employment. We have seen that it has happened. And also fear of seniors now retaliating and bringing up vexatious matters. I have been involved in a matter where my colleague, Kina Ambrose Waigwa and Florence, were unfortunately harassed by a senior counsel in this profession. Why? Because one of our colleague, Florence, was sexually harassed. And when we went to report that the DCI, they decided to change the narrative. So now we need to ensure that confidentiality and retaliation is not felt. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wanjeri, we would also want to hear from you on that issue of confronting cyberbullying, sexual harassment, and other discomforts being created in the digital space against legal professionals.
Yes, let me start by saying I am a co-convener in the Gender Committee, and one of the activities that we've been undertaking throughout our 2-year tenure is we've been doing sensitization for members on especially technologically facilitated gender-based violence. We have incorporated stakeholders, various stakeholders like the police, the ODPP in our various webinars, and they have been very well received. So I think what we should be looking at is how to improve. And I think one of the things that we should look at is how to pursue law reform with regard to enacting laws that actually criminalize such behaviors. In fact, we should even also look at how to hold tech platforms liable for not pulling out any material that is deemed to be harassing in nature against any particular person. Now, in LSK, I think what we should also implement is a gender reporting desk. And I think this will also be important because it will reduce the shaming of victims and be able now to give that confidentiality and give members the confidence that their matters are taken seriously. Now, another thing we should do is give psychosocial support, because so far, most people have been very reluctant to come out and say these things. So those are things that we should actually provide, which currently we've not provided. And also you realize that the level of reporting has been very low. So I think some of the things that I would consider. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to have the same question go to Debora, but maybe Ms. Wanjeri, just for the comfort of the audience, maybe if you could just place your phone aside, just so we are sure you're not referring to it, that would be great. And then, Debora, as you're answering the same question, there was a recent concern by a judicial officer that LSK is not fair in its attempts to protect women, that they lean towards protecting people on the bar, but they don't extend the same protection to women on the bench. So even as you're responding to that question, I'd like to hear your assessment. Is it true that LSK has leaned towards the bar, not the bench? And if not, what are you proposing? Or if it is true, what are you proposing? Thank you.
Lucy, you've taken the words right out of my mouth. I think we must have an honest conversation. We can talk about policies and all that, and we do have them. In fact, I'm of the opinion that Kenya is one of the most legislated countries. we don't struggle with the legislation. Cyberbullying, there's legislation. What we struggle with is implementation. Now, I was actually going to talk about that incident. We ourselves, charity begins at home. So we must start the conversation from even our own members. We have our own members actually bullying fellow members on the platform. I'm very active on social media. And we have our own members bullying fellow members, and we have our own members bullying judicial officers. So we must have a very honest conversation about this. What specific actions and consequences are we taking against our members? Without taking action, this continues to just be in policy. It's on a paper. It's not coming live. We have to do that, and we have to have these conversations and create the spaces for these. So let's have sessions where we discuss this and say, why are we having this? Why are we having errant members who are bullying, who are cyber bullies? You know, and what do we need to do about it? From the judiciary perspective, of course, the judiciary has, you know, the relevant bodies that protect their members, but we work hand in hand. You know, a judicial officer starts from being an advocate, and we can always cross over. We've just had colleagues who've crossed over to the other side. So we must work hand in hand and have these conversations. Thank you.
All right, so we now move on to another area, and this is focusing on gendered activities and targeted programs. So again, we'll start with Teresia. We'd want to hear from you what specific programs or initiatives are we seeing you putting in place, especially in the position of Vice President of the Society, to advance women's participation and leadership in the legal profession. So what different thing are you doing? You've been a council member, but now as Vice President, how is it going to be different on gender-responsive activities and programs that will advance women participation and leadership within the profession?
For that question, first and foremost, we need to enhance our partnership with all the female-led organizations that are out there. And the very first beginning is FIDA, because FIDA is owned and managed by advocates. We need to ensure most of the young advocates, even before they become advocates, they even become member of FIDA, so that together we can continue and enhance legal awareness on the women's rights, even to the point of the grassroots. Secondly, as a council member, as I mentioned earlier on, we've been able to achieve the two-third gender rule by ensuring many females are actually nominated and appointed in these boards. I will really ensure this is trickled down to the branch level, to the chapter level, even when they are nominating anybody in the law society to become a board member. Thirdly, among our profession, we have so many WhatsApp forums. In these WhatsApp forums, we usually disseminate information, including even the ABA WhatsApp fora, the Law Society WhatsApp fora, and very, very various WhatsApp groups. In these many various WhatsApp groups, we need to start having now those conversations of engaging many female advocates. A very good example, what FIDA did the other day, they finally started promoting and motivating us, who are already members of the FIDA, by even recognizing their efforts and awarding them. My very good friend Lucy Mulago was awarded the Pro Bono Lawyer of the Year. So when these initiatives are put in place, and we are marketing them very well for our members to see, they will be able to come on board and actually activate that voice. Because law society should not just be seen, but should be viable in support to ensure that female-led leadership is actuated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we come to you, Wanjeri. Same question. What gender-specific activities and programs do we see you putting in place, especially if you are to succeed in serving in the position of Vice President of the Society?
I think one of the things that we did, I want to start with what we did in the Gender Committee, that we were able to conduct mentorship and leadership activities in various secondary schools. And how to improve on that, I think what we can do is now go to twinning, where we have mentorship on a one-on-one basis, so that now it is more impactful. Another thing I would want to champion is flexible working hours for especially nursing mothers. I think for our council, we have started that. Now at the Milimani Law Courts, we have a nursing station in in the Advocates Lounge. And I think one thing I would want to do is replicate that nationwide in all our courts. I think LSK would be more than happy to support such an initiative. Another thing is ask our members to have policies that actually support in work-life integration in their law firms, and this will be able now to produce holistic advocates who are able now to work better and produce better results. Yes.
Would want to hear about leadership, specifically
on
leadership, yes, promoting women presence in leadership.
I think on leadership, like I said, when you mentor the young people when they're coming into the profession, that includes mentorship for taking up leadership positions. We encourage women to actually be able to apply for our committee so that they can get to know how the society works and prepare them for future. I think where I sit, I don't think the LSK has a problem with women leadership as such. We have had two female presidents at the moment, and I think if you look at previous councils, they have had majority female representation. So I don't think the LSK has a problem with female leadership. I think maybe the problem we have most is in policies that actually support women in being able to work. But of course, we will continue with the policies that are actually in place that encourage women to take up leadership and encourage them to participate in the society.
Thank you. Yeah, Debora?
I'll start by saying I don't think we have a problem with regards to representation of women in the legal profession. And I say that looking at the Law Society, I say that looking at judiciary. Judiciary is about 50%. And so that's not a challenge in the profession. The challenges we have, I have mentioned in the previous question, are the challenges that we have. You know, sexual harassment, lack of equal pay for similar roles, and conditions of work and things like maternity leave. So I would say I wouldn't want to focus so much on that. And I'll say this. There's a gender committee within the Law Society of Kenya which specifically handles those issues. I would not want us to lose sight of the fact that the vice president serves all members, regardless of the gender. I think I want to reiterate that. And let us not lose sight of that. There's a specific gender committee which will handle those specific matters. And of course, sitting as vice president, I will support them. But let us not lose sight, even when we have had presidents who are female, like we've just had right now, we have not had, let us not make the focus, the fact that we are now members, we are now leading, as women. Otherwise, we sort of lose the plot. I think we serve all members and we need to be balanced. So specific issues that impact female lawyers, we will address those. Thank you.
Right, just a small follow-up. So are we at the peak in terms of seeing women leadership in the legal profession? Or are there still gaps in different areas, academia, private sector, the branches? And if there are any gaps, what will you do to fill them?
To be quite frank, I don't think there's a major gap. I think this is one of the professions which are doing very well. Yeah. Is there room for improvement? Yes, there's room for improvement. I'll tell you where. I happen to have served in the corporate space, and I'm a senior executive. When I sit in a room, I'm in a board full of men. So in-house lawyers, it's a struggle. We are few. So that's an example. But in terms of the practice, in fact, I was talking to young lawyers the other day, and we are more women. We're actually more young lawyers coming into the space. Even when we look at the results from the Kenya School of Law, we are more women. The percentage is higher. The pass rate is higher.
All right. I would like to just move on to the next question, and it will actually pick up from where you've left off, Debora. I don't think anyone is disputing that there are more women in the legal profession. I think the question is whether women are ascending to the highest echelons, and you've just pointed to the corporate space as one of the areas where women are not necessarily in the highest space. We're doing very well with the judiciary, but maybe not across sectors. So the question is not whether there are women in the legal profession, the question is, are they rising to the highest levels? And so I know you've all gone across the country, you've been receiving views. And I want to tie this, because as you rightly said, we're not just representing women, there's also people with disabilities, there's young people. So there's an intersectionality element as well. So what I'd like to hear from you, as you've gone across the country speaking to different people, what are the systemic barriers that are keeping women at the lower levels? We are not disputing that women are in the space, but they are not always at the highest levels. What, in your assessment, are the systemic barriers that are keeping women at the lowest level, and or preventing them from advancing in the profession? And what are you going to do to champion their advancement to higher levels, and at the same time push for the inclusion of people with disabilities and young people? Because marginalization is cutting across these categories. So let's start with Teresia, so we just give Debora a chance to breathe. Please also remember, when you're done with your question, to switch off your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the main reasons why we rarely see most of the young people coming out on leadership space is what has turned out to be our elections. We also need to be very, very candid among ourselves. The elections of the law society has turned to be who is the highest bidder, who has a lot of money. Majority of the young lawyers who actually are very proactive, very visionary, and they're very forward-thinking are inhibited to join such politics. I will speak as an example. When you're going around the country asking members to vote for you, some will even ask you on your face, iko wapi lunch, wapi cabbage? So how do you expect an advocate who is just 3 years or 5 years post-admission to actually join in this arena? Secondly, there's the issue of fair play at either remuneration, promotion, and even awarding of the job appointment to female advocates. You will find in most interviews when we go and attend, majority, due to the systematic biasing that is there, they will employ male lawyers, especially on these high-end cases. Rarely will you see young female advocates in those high-end cases. And the reason you'll hear it's because, for lack of a better word, they think we have a baggage of, oh, you're young, you're female, the security issue, you cannot be sent outside town, yet they have not given us a chance to see that we are capable of doing that. Another aspect that is inhibiting to see many young females on the playfield is the issue of sexual harassment and retaliation. Once they're sexually harassed, they are forced to shut up. As I mentioned earlier on, a case where one of us was sexually harassed. She finally got the courage to speak up. But after she spoke up, the case was convoluted into a database case. So pray tell, if we do not set up mechanisms to ensure confidentiality in reporting, to ensure we are actively protecting and enforcing these mechanisms, because there are consequences. Allow me 30 more minutes. There are consequences on someone who actually sexually harasses as per the policy. This is a professional misconduct. They're supposed to be taken to the disciplinary tribunal. But rarely will this case come to conclusion because of the issue of you don't know anyone, you're young, so you're victimized. So it is high time for us to actively take up the space to actively protect the less marginalized people in the society, whom are unfortunately the young ladies in the society.
Elizabeth?
Let me start by answering. You asked the things that have limited women in career progression. Most of the things I have heard was one, sexual harassment, family responsibilities, and lack of skills due to unavailability of time to actually attend continuous professional development programs that equip them with more skills to be able to progress in their careers. Now, when it comes to that, my proposal will be, let us be able to put in place systems that allow family-friendly environments for especially women. Since it's women who are the primary caregivers, then they are able now to get time, to get flexible working hours, and they are able now to even attend these events. Another thing that LSK can do, it can champion for specialized CPs, continuous professional learning programs for women, and especially nursing mothers, and with a view to equipping them with specialized skills so that they're able to progress in their career. Another thing, when it comes to for people with disability, I will propose we take up affirmative action for such a category of advocates. I think I stand to be corrected. I have not seen a PWD in the society's leadership. I think what we can do, we can put in place a seat that specifically catered for them, put it for a particular period, let's say for 6 years, then we address it after those 6 years to see if it has been able to be impactful for people with disability. When it comes to young people, I agree that young people have been taken advantage of, and especially by us politicians in the legal profession. We realize that when it is time for campaigns, people promise heaven and earth, and even go to an extent of giving young advocates alcohol and other things. Then we will be the same people coming back to start talking of mental health and all that, when we've been the same people taking advantage of them. So I think, give me 30 seconds, please. So I think as far as young advocates are concerned, I think measures should be put in place on how we can change how we conduct our elections. I think we should go to a debate-based campaign mode, instead of this one where we go around and people are being treated and they expect to be treated. So those are the things I would recommend.
Thank you. Debora, as you answer this question, I'm hearing a lot of reference to external factors, but I would also like to hear proactively what you are going to do to mentor younger people, not just women. Because one of the things that we keep hearing from younger female lawyers is that older women lawyers are not willing to mentor, that there's more men who are willing to mentor women than women willing to mentor women, that there's some sort of gatekeeping. So I would also like to hear proactively, yes, there's been reference to removing external barriers, but proactively what can be done to encourage women to be more forthcoming with mentorship. And I'm also looking for strategies that are realizable within 2 years.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy. I'll say the same concerns. One is sexual harassment. I've addressed that and how it should be addressed from a policy perspective. The second is exploitation, which happens to young lawyers particularly. I've addressed that by saying we need to have policy and regulation. And finally, I was going to add that we must do mentorship. Okay? For women, I think one of my biggest successes, one of the things that has helped me succeed in my career is mentorship. And I have started programs actually where I mentor young women. So I mentor young girls in school, but I also mentor young lawyers. And it has to be very structured, you know. So mentorship, we talk about mentorship, but I think it has to be structured, and that's what I'm proposing. That we need to have structured mentorship where we get a pool of the senior women lawyers who are then now matched with the young women lawyers. That way you're able to track and you're able to have it in a very structured way. Without structuring, mentorship does not become very useful because it has to be a continuous process. And I speak because I've seen this kind of mentorship work. I run an organization called Women Lawyers in Finance, and that's one of the things, the programs that we have. Institute of Certified Secretaries does the same thing, a mentorship program. It has to be very structured because we talk about mentorship, and every lawyer will talk about mentorship, but if it's not structured, it's not going to be beneficial to the mentor and the mentee, because there's also reverse mentorship. So I think we have to be very specific about how we are doing that. That way we are able to hold their hands, you know, the young women lawyers, and assist them to navigate these difficult terrains. Sometimes it just needs somebody to talk to and help them to navigate a particular situation, yeah? And finally, I'll say, the remuneration sometimes you find is tied, okay? Remuneration is tied to the sexual harassment. When you speak to the young lawyer, sometimes you find it's a double-edged sword because this lady feels disempowered. And when you're disempowered, then you become vulnerable.
Thank you. As I earlier mentioned, when such opportunities arise, we need to effectively create awareness in all our social media platforms, in our LSK emails, and ensure all the platforms that all of us are there will actually be able to see those opportunities. Secondly, as we have done before in this current council, it's a tradition I would really want to carry forward of ensuring we are not just awarding on gender-based, but we are also awarding on merit. So it be purely on merit and not just gender-based. Thirdly, on the issue of affirmative action, just like we did in the Gender Committee of 2020, if no affirmative action is taken upon, we also need to take drastic measures by ensuring that not all people who just apply are male or are female, but there's a very good balance by creating that awareness. Fourthly, on the issue of the marginalized community, like the PWD in our society, during our AGM last year, there was a motion that was brought forth, and that motion went through, where we have been able to finally have a position for the persons with disability to join the current council. So that is something, as a vice president-elect, if I'm elected, I will want to follow up until it is well implemented in the current Advocates Act.
All right, yeah, let's hear from Wanjeri.
Yes, I think, like I said earlier, representation can come in boards and both in elective positions. Now, when it comes to committees, I think what LSK has done, and we should continue doing, is when we make the calls open, make the recruitment criteria open to all so that everyone knows. But more than anything, let us get people who are the best suited for that, both in qualification and in educational qualification and work experience, so that now it is merit-based rather than now it looks like it's tokenism. And now to be able also to make it more open, we need to frequently update our members on the appointments that have been made so that they can be able to also assess and analyze who is getting these positions. On marginalized people, like I said, on PWD, we need to have an affirmative action in place, which we can look at it for 6 years and then review it after that.
Just a small follow-up. You've been on the outgoing council, isn't it? You have over 20,000 members. How do you see it? Out of those 20,000, people have applied for the committees, 10,000 applied.
First and foremost, you look at the qualification, and then you look at regional balancing, because we have to take, now that we have the various branches in the LSK structure, we have to take members from each and every branch so that each region feels that it is a part of the LSK. Thank you.
I'll start by saying I think it's important to practice what you preach. We currently have concerns about tokenism. Let's just call a spade a spade. We do have concerns about how people get into the committees, so let's just be truthful. We can sit here and say that we will apply measures and beautiful processes and, representation. We must put it to practice. I have served on a committee, the CPD committee. I served 1 term, and I'm the only member who resigned from that committee. I wonder why we have a committee that is 45 members strong, and the same members have been in that committee for several terms. Are you telling me that there are no other members in this society who can serve in the CPD committee? I think not. I served in that committee and I created room for other people to serve. And I moved on to something else. We have to be fair to all our membership. Yes, we do not have committees to accommodate 27,000 members, but in our distribution, we must be fair, we must be transparent, we must move away from tokenism. That is what we are doing right now, and we must stop.
Okay, Deborah, I think what I would want to hear is practically what will you do? And as a follow-up, especially on the disability question, one of the things that tends to happen when we do disability inclusion is even amongst categories of disability, we discriminate so that we focus on physical disability, for example. So I would want to hear practically what will you be doing? So like you're saying, there's people who served in committees for several cycles. So as Vice President, what would you do to change that way of setting up committees?
Okay. So there needs to be a term limit. That's the first thing. There has to be a term limit. You cannot serve in a committee perpetually. So I would institute a policy where there's a limit. We have those with council. We don't have that with council membership, but we need to have them so that we are fair to all our membership. We are many. So that's number one, limit the time. Number two, there has to be something, in policy, affirmative action. And disability, in fact, differently abled, cuts across board. We have sight, etc. So let's have a special position. And there is, as one of my colleagues said, it is, a motion was brought. Let's implement that motion, because we cannot rely on, the goodwill of members. I know that there are members, 2 members actually, who have vied for council positions. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. One of them is coming back. I do hope that she makes it. Yeah, that's the specific practical measures. Just limit it. Yeah, limit it. And then I also just finally wanted to say that I think when we say women representation in the committees, I think let it be merit-based. I always tell my fellow women, and I love you all, and that's why I'm a member of FIDA, being a woman is not a qualification. Please let it be backed by qualification.
Thank you. Thank you for the responses to that first segment of questioning. As we said earlier, we wanted to have questions around 3 thematic areas. And we'd like to move on to the Section 4 mandate, which is broader than welfare and spreads to what the LSK does in society. So what we wanted to hear from you in this segment is your understanding of the role that the LSK should have in advancing justice for vulnerable groups broadly. I know LSK has been very front-facing, especially in the recent past when it comes to standing in for people who are indigent, cannot provide bail and things like that during the protest. But we want to hear from you broadly, beyond what has already been done. What will you be proposing that the LSK does to push forward its mandate of advancing justice and protection of vulnerable groups? So same order. Or do you want us to reverse the order? We can also do that. Same order is okay? Right, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Just to add to what the Law Society is currently doing to ensure that the marginalized community are well taken care of and their rule of law and rights are not infringed, I will also want to advocate for the advancement and finally functionability of the NALEP fund. It is time that now the national government sees the seriousness that it holds and finally put in the fund that it's supposed to and activate that fund and activate the committee that is supposed to oversee. Secondly, I'll also want to push branches and chapters to also continue holding legal aids clinics. As Nairobi branch, ever since we're in the Nairobi branch, we started the legal aid clinics with in collaborations with churches, in collaborations with other stakeholders on matters justice. So I'll also encourage branches and chapters to actively do that and not just wait for the October Legal Awareness Week. Fourthly, we'll also want to advocate for the issue of pro bono advocates with all other stakeholders that usually give these services to the common mwananchi, including FIDA, including Kituo cha Sheria, including Katiba Institute. Bringing all these stakeholders on board, it will ensure that our members of the Law Society of Kenya will actually uphold and live to the oath that they took on the day of their admission. So we cannot just work in silos at the Law Society. We also need to work in conjunctions with our partners who are out there to ensure service is felt to the mwananchi at the grassroots. Thank you.
Thank you. I think one of the key mandates of the LSK is to advance justice, access to justice, and actually protect the rule of law. And I think one of the key areas we can do is to champion for the funding of the National Legal Aid Service as part of our mandate to pursue legal aid access to the vulnerable people. Another thing which we should be able to do, LSK does a lot of pro bono services, and we can partner with our stakeholders to be able to strengthen that particular aspect more. When it comes to, and then we also need to look at pushing legislative reforms when it comes to some, some of the crimes that are being committed against women, children, even under law. A lot of sexual abuse is happening for boys, and in some areas, actually the community itself is covering it up. So we should actually look, I would propose looking even at aspect of criminalizing such aspect of collusion on the part of the people who are colluding to actually cover up such crimes. So those are the things I would look at when it comes to vulnerable populations.
Thank you. Debora?
First, I must commend the current council for doing an excellent job with regards to protection of the rule of law. So this council will be, the incoming council will just be progressing from where it has left, from the good job it has done. I think key for me would be funding. Funding is a major concern. Because we have lawyers who volunteer their time to do pro bono cases, but sometimes we find even the process, of remunerating them or giving them the small token, there's delays and they're not remunerated accordingly. And pro bono lawyers, I mean, we cannot serve the society without pro bono services. So that's one, the funding. And the processes. The processes, we need to actually engage our stakeholders, including our funders, and also the judiciary, because some of these services, we work in conjunction with the judiciary. So we need to have stakeholder relations and stakeholder meetings to ensure that this process is smooth. We offer the service, but the users, and the clients to benefit, we need to have stakeholder management. And then finally, I think it's important for us to realize that there are other stakeholders. For instance, when we have this, say, criminal matters, we have the police. We need to sit down and have conversations with them. Because sometimes when you hear what's happening is we are progressing a case and you find, there's frustration, the process, the prosecution, etc. And then it becomes very difficult. You send an advocate to watch brief and, they're literally just wondering, what can I do about this? And that requires some stakeholder engagement. But in addition to that, it also requires us to call out some of these things. And that's where, as council members and the Law Society Council, we come in. We must speak up and call out some of these things.
Thank you, Debora. In the spirit of calling out things, my next question is actually about speaking the truth to power. I think the LSK has been well known through the decades as being the one institution, the one statutory body that can be counted on to speak the truth to power. And we are now in election season. We are going into elections next year. And so we find ourselves in a space where we will need a very strong body, particularly for two reasons. One, we have seen the executive's response to some of the decisions of the judiciary. We've had the president coming out repeatedly and accusing the judiciary of frustrating government policy. We've had of attempts to amend the constitution as we go into 2027. The LSK has been very good with public interest litigation, strategic litigation. But what we want to hear, and especially because there is an increased likelihood of disobedience of court orders by high-ranking officials, we've seen already what has happened with the decision on advisors within the cabinet. What do you think the LSK's role should be going forward in terms of speaking the truth to power, and ensuring that it maintains its institutional credibility? There have been concerns that some of the members lean towards the state. So we want to know, as we go into the next cycle of elections, can we trust the LSK to speak the truth to power while maintaining its institutional credibility? Let's start with you, Teresia.
Thank you, and yes, people can continue believing in the law society to stand up against any rogue government, any rogue authoritarian rule, or even any power. We have shown the previous 2 years how vigilant and how vigorous we are to go out there and protect the rule of law. Not just because it is a mandate under the Section 4 of the Law Society Act, but all advocates, once we are admitted, we always take an oath to protect and uphold the rule of law. So it is within us as members of the Law Society to continue vigilantly protecting, upholding, and with no fear or favor, stand up for the right reasons. When it comes to issues of how we are doing it, we have been able to do it together with our members. We have called upon our members. We have called upon our partners to join hands. When in the previous council, I was able to bring on board Open Society Foundation as one of the partners who actually helped us to ensure even on the strategic litigation that were putting forth during the Maandamano was well compensated for our members. Secondly, even during the GBV Maandamano, I was on the forefront speaking up because don't we just have, as much as we can agree that Kenya is one of the countries that is heavily legislated, but there are some aspects that have not yet been legislated. Up to date, GBV matters are treated as criminal offenses. They are defined as per the penal code, yet we have not yet defined what femicide is, and that is the struggle that we have, not just as lawyers, but also as a society. So we need to be also proactive in ensuring we can be at the forefront on legislating such issues which have not yet been legislated, because when you legislate, you give room and you give the power for mechanisms and empowering those already existing institutions to actually take up an action against such acts.
I hear what you're saying, Teresia, but I don't think the problem is absence of legislation. I think we can agree as a country we have a lot of legislation. In fact, some might argue legislative inflation, right? We are not disputing the fact that LSK has been very good with Maandamano, very, very good. We are not disputing that we've done very good work in strategic litigation. But if you're coming up against a state that does not believe in the rule of law, that is going to flout court orders in your face and asking you, without asking you, Mtadu, what other options can LSK offer? That's what I would like to hear.
Apart from being active at litigating this on the issues of strategic litigation, also creating awareness across board to all parties and all members of this society as a Kenyan institution. Because as Kenyans, Law Society of Kenya embodies the rule of law. And as lawyers, we are the architects that the society is looking up to. We are the ones who guide, we are the ones who advise. So if we decide to relentlessly stand up for the rule of law, even when we're being intimidated, like some of us have been, even when they are coming on forefront, we are still standing up for the rule of law. If we vigilantly and relentlessly stand up, I believe also the society will follow suit, as we did during the Maandamano season.
Thank you, Teresia. Same question, Elizabeth.
I think one of the things we should do is ensure that there are many organizations that are actually supposed to do various mandates when it comes to enforcing the law of the land. And what we see is that LSK actually has been left alone in fighting for this. Now, one of the things that we should actually continue doing is calling out institutions that are not playing their part when it comes to upholding the law and ensuring that the government of the day is not is not operating above the citizenry and the constitution of the land. Now, of course, contempt proceedings are an option for LSK, and it has been done before, and I think it should continue being done. Another thing we can actually choose for those office holders, we can actually choose a route of having those office holders removed from office. But now the problem that we get, the challenge we get as LSK, is that look at institutions, other key justice sector stakeholders that are actually supposed to support LSK in this. They don't rise up to the occasion when it is actually required. So what we need to do is continue being vigilant in calling out institutions that should actually be doing that, and they're not undertaking their mandate, and ensuring that we are vigilant. Last but not least, I think there's nothing wrong with protesting. If everything else fails, we can always resort to protest. Thank you.
Same question, Deborah. I'm still hoping that there is something else in the LSK toolbox beyond protesting, beyond litigation, beyond writing statements. But if not, let's hear what you're proposing.
You're putting me on the spot. Especially being that I'm speaking last. So I could repeat everything they have said, which I will not, because all those are things which we can do and have done. But sometimes we need to change strategy. That's what I'll say. I'll give an example of, first I'll say, we must speak truth to power. Now, how do you know that somebody will speak truth to power? Just assess their track record. I usually say, if you want people to believe that you're bold, don't tell them you're bold. They will see and know that you're bold by your actions. That's how I'll start. Secondly, the LSK Council cannot fight this battle alone. We must speak as a society with one voice. When the council or the president calls upon us as members, we must speak with one voice. The challenge we have sometimes is that we have people who speak a different voice, and that's how we are infiltrated. We must speak with one voice. So when there are challenges, judicial independence is something which I call a strange, it's turned into a strange animal. So that we even have judgments which go completely contrary to precedents. And you look at the judgment and you wonder, how? How did this happen? When something like that happens, I think it's going to be very difficult to be having a conversation. So that might require some protest, and that requires all of us to speak with one voice. Get out of our offices and go and be heard. We did that when there were issues with the lands registry. We went and we left our offices. Even those of us in nice, swanky offices, we put on our rubber shoes and went out. But that can only work if we speak with one voice. So we must speak to power, truth to power, but we must have a collective voice. The council on its own cannot do it.
Yeah, so how will you rally us to speak in one voice?
We will call you protests. When we say we are going to lands registry, come out of your office. You have to get out of your comfort zone to change certain things. Some things cannot be changed by you sitting in your comfort zone, because by the time we were going to the lands registry, we had been sitting in boardrooms with the National Lands Commission, several meetings. I happened to sit in some of those meetings, and it just wasn't happening. Lawyers were getting frustrated. They're trying to do transactions. It's not moving. It's not working. We cannot proceed with transactions. How many boardroom meetings I go to? I do believe in boardroom meetings. I practice there every day. But sometimes some things cannot be resolved in a boardroom. And when it cannot be resolved in a boardroom, you step out. Yeah.
So let's hope we'll get that as we go along with the discussion. Now we want to focus on the strategic plan at the Law Society and accountability. So we have the current strategic plan, which I think is lapsing in 2027. And all of you have been involved in leadership at different levels. So we just want to know, what priorities do you see you yourself putting in place, especially on areas of governance, public accountability, and protection of the rule of law? Because that's what really the members would want to see is prioritized in the strategic plan. Governance, public accountability, and protection of the rule of law. What are you going to do should you get into that office of vice president? So again, we'll start with Teresia.
Thank you. And just to answer you something you asked, how will you get members out? A very good example, during the Mandamano in 2024, advocates are already tired. You just need to call them, you just need to create that awareness, and you will already see them on board. Secondly, we also need to make sure they are also compensated as they offer their pro bono services for free. On to the question of the strategic plan, on the issue of governance, we need to play within the tenets of corporate governance, which include decision-making by the majority, number one, the issue of not leaking information, and above all, the issue of following the standards that have been set on how to operate as a board. Secondly, I also need to ensure the clear distinct between the board members and the secretariat, who are the implementers of the decisions that are made by the board. By ensuring this, as a vice president, who is also in charge of staff and finance, I will ensure I have a very good rapport and relation with the CEO of the Law Society together with the rest of the secretariat, so that we ensure member services is well felt. Thirdly, as it is, when we join the council, we realize that we have a very bad turnover of our secretariat. And we're able to have a sit down with them and to understand. So we need to ensure there is fair play when it comes to work and job opportunities of the secretariat who are already there. Because some of them were complaining that there was no enough fair play, which as a current council we have started implementing. On the issue of public accountability, during our AGMs, after we have collated and all the information from our branches, our chapters, and also from the national office on the issue of expenditure, we also ensure our members get that report beforehand. Previously, in the previous councils, that was not being done. So it is something that I will want to continue so that our members are well informed on the expenditure, our members are well informed on all the key critical decisions that affect fiduciary usage of their funds. On the issue of the rule of law, as we started in this current council, it's something, 30 more seconds, please. It's something that I'll want to continue, not just as a council, but also bringing out the clarion call to the members of the Law Society through the oath that we took, bringing out the clarion call to our key stakeholder and partners on issue of upholding the rule of law. Because we cannot walk or talk this talk alone. We need to walk and talk in unity so that we can actually see the proceeds. Thank you.
Just a small follow-up. You know you are in the outgoing council. Have you made any progress in making that separation between secretariat and council so that we start clearly seeing the difference between governance and management?
Yes.
Has there been any progress in?
Yes, we have, including the recent procured ERP system. We were very clear that it is the procurement department that is supposed to take up that mantle, supposed to handle it until the tail end. And that is when now the council was involved when they were bringing out the issue of the reporting. On the issue of usage and transaction of our monies, it is purely a managerial issue that is being dealt with so that we do not see a repeat of one of us refusing to sign or append a signature when it matters not for the issue of the society. So yes, we have continued and we continue to improve and show a very clear distinct between the board and the management that surely implements. And also on the issue of bringing on stakeholders, as I've mentioned, I've been able to bring out 3 key stakeholders. Open Society Foundation, I've been able to bring out Wangari Maathai Foundation so that we'll be able to put up the strategic litigation on the rule of law on the issue of the place that usually run, Karura Forest. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wanjeri.
Okay, I'll start with good governance. I think one thing I would want to champion is to have a more responsive secretariat so that they can be able to give the services to members better. When it comes to picking phone calls, responding to emails, I think that is something we should look into so that now members get served in a better fashion and they get more value for money. Another thing I would want for LSK when it comes to governance is to have a long-term investment policy. And for that, I think we need to have an investment committee at LSK so that we are able to know what the long-term investment plans for the society is. Another thing I would want is to have periodic board appraisals and reviews so that we know whether we are actually delivering on our mandates to the members. When it comes to accountability, I must say that I pushed for adoption of a running conflict of interest register for both the Secretariat and the Council, and I think that has been good for accountability and transparency. Another thing I would want to look at is how we would advocate, I would want to champion for is advocating more for the legal profession with a view to being able to increase our practice areas while at the same time protecting the increasing practice areas. That would be just it, yeah.
I've spoken quite a bit about the rule of law, so I won't repeat anything I've said. I'll focus on governance, and I'll talk about corporate governance. And here I speak as a practitioner. If you want to know that an institution has challenges, you need to just look at how the services are coming to you. Just a simple thing, phone calls are not picked at LSK. I'm sure if I ask you to raise your hand, everybody in this room will raise their hands, right? service to members. So if that is not happening, and it has not been happening for the last 2 years, I don't serve in the council. I serve in the welfare arm, ABA. But you'd be amazed how my phone rings off the hook from lawyers asking me, Deborah, do you know somebody at LSK who can help me? Do you know somebody who can help me with CPDs? I am doing LSK work. And I give them personal numbers of individuals at the Secretariat who I know will respond. That should not be the case. We should have a proper call management system, which is what I am proposing. And the call management system should be connected to emails. I have it in my manifesto. So this is not just stuff I'm talking about. That way, you're able to hold members accountable so that there's no general comment that says, you know, LSK doesn't pick its calls. Who is LSK? Tell us, Deborah doesn't pick their calls, or Christine doesn't pick their calls. Be very specific. When we have a call management system connected to emails, then we avoid a situation where calls go unanswered. We currently are using at the Secretariat, and this will come as news to you. We don't have a call management system. They are using Katululus. When you use a Katululu, you cannot tell that there's a call waiting, right? So how do you convince us that you're doing governance? Secondly, we still have both management and council doing financial processes. That must be separated. Yeah? That is where you have now issues. It must be separated. And finally, most important for me, I said services, how services are delivered shows you how disgruntled members of a secretariat are. And that tells me they're disgruntled. What am I proposing? We must do an audit. 2 audits. 1, we must do an employee satisfaction survey, and 2, we must have a governance audit before we talk about these beautiful things. That's where we should start.
Thank you very much. We are now coming to the last part of our first set of questions, which is now on how you're going to execute your mandate as a welfare organization. We have focused a lot on what you do for women, a lot on what you do for the society, but at the end of the day, you exist for the welfare of the members as part of your mandate. And what we want to know in this section is what you're going to be doing to address welfare concerns of members. One of the concerns that members have had, and I'm sure when you've gone across the country, they've mentioned this to you, is the CPD program. To what extent is it accessible? To what extent is it flexible in terms of the courses which are offered? And to what extent is it responsive to the realities of modern legal practice? So what we want to hear from you are answers to those questions. How can we make CPDs more accessible, more flexible, and more responsive to modern legal practice?
The issue of the CPD, as a current council member, we have ensured that when we are making the calendar of the CPD in November, before we go sit down with the CPD committee, first and foremost, we usually call upon our members through the emails, the WhatsApp channels, to be able to fill in and give in comments of the topics that they intend or they feel or they believe should form part of the CPD calendar of the following year. That is a tradition that I intend to continue, not just for all members, but also for specialized CPD. In this current council, we've been able to finally have one specialized CPD for all county governments. That is going to be a yearly thing, something that we introduced, something that we wrote to the CPD committee, and something that they embraced for 2 main reasons. It's going to continue equipping knowledge to the members of our society whom we work in the county governments, and also secondly, it's also going to be a very good stream of income for the law society. Secondly, on the issue of accessibility, we're able also to look vis-a-vis the CPDs that are being offered and how practical they are. I know at the moment we do not have physical CPDs cutting across all towns as they used to be. But now we have the virtual options where we have one CPD for 1,000, and it's virtually at the confinement and convenient of where you're going to be. That is something we also, and I intend to continue improving on that, so that we make sure all CPDs are accessible, be it virtual or manual CPDs.
About the specialized CPDs, it's a good direction to go, but how will you bridge that cost difference? Because those we have are quite highly priced, contrasted to the typical CPDs. Anything on the pricing and accessibility for the specialized CPDs?
Yes, for that, in my experience, I've been able to establish it's always important to look at an idea and see how best you can bring others. That's why my leadership is a part of inclusivity, that you can bring other partners that can actually help us ensure our members are still going to be educated on those specialized CPDs while we subtract the amounts. How? We're going to approach these partners who usually come to the Law Society and insist that they want to take us through a training. Why don't we convert that through now the CPD charter, and there's a CPD center that the CPD committee proposed and this council approved, so that we be able to have an institution that is fully fledged for offering CPDs. So as a council, we need to identify those partners on the who have those specialized skills and specialized funds to enhance our trainings and to ensure our members will still get, without our members feeling the beacon of the economical times, so that we'll be able to shield them.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from you, Ms. Wanjeri.
Yes, I think CPD, let me start by saying first that I am the council representative to the CPD committee. And I think the CPD program is first and foremost, it is very accessible. We have the online events, which are actually held often 3 times or more in a week. And I must say that I also moved a motion that led to reduction of those particular events through my motion, which introduced the 2 points for 1,500 webinar. And it is true that that led to the introduction of the 1 point for 1,000 events. So I can say that actually I contributed to reduction of CPD expenses. So yes, they are accessible. Flexibility is there in that you can actually choose whichever event it is you want to attend, depending on your particular diary. And they are responsive. If you look at the current CPD calendar, we have included issues that now are untapped. We have included issues like SGBV, and look at even AI, areas that we advocates can tap into. So it is actually very responsive if you look at it. Now, one of the key things that I would actually propose for more responsiveness and accessibility is even that is in my agenda is for setting up of an online CPD library. Now, sometimes people are busy, they would want to attend an event, they would not be able to attend an event. So at your free time for a small fee, when we set up this particular library, you can actually be able to log in and be able to go through the events, look at what you want for your particular area of practice, and you're able now to be able to learn, not necessarily for the points, but even for knowledge purposes. When it comes to, and I also want to say about responsiveness, there is the specialized CPDs, which I must accredit my colleague Debora. She actually was the one who championed for it when she was a member of the CPD committee. But the cost indeed has been prohibitive, I agree. But one of the things that we can do is look for strategic partnerships with our core. Please give me 30 seconds. Look for strategic partnerships that can offer sponsorships to even those particular activities, because these are CPD events that actually transfer skill sets to people. So there definitely must be a cost element to it. And I must say that it is similar to we can't pursue agreements like the one I pursued with LSK, KMA, and IMLU, where we're doing capacity building trainings for advocates on issues like forensic evidence, and even looking at other areas of law that can actually be practiced by our members. Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Debora, and as you answer, maybe you'll just treat it as what's the unfinished business, because you are on that committee at one point. So what's this unfinished business you had there that we'll see you carry on?
Okay, thank you. The unfinished business I have is the Legal Training Institute. Now that the specialized CPDs have worked and we are generating income from them and getting quality trainings, we move to Legal Training Institute, where we expand this and have a whole week training, more specialized trainings where we can even get the same partners to train us. So partners will be useful in reducing the cost. But I must say this. Good things are expensive. I know you come from a point where you work with students and all, but let me tell you this. When you provide quality education or services, nobody will question. the cost. When you tell a young lawyer, I'm going to give you a week training for you to get mediation. This is an example. Mediation is a 40-hour training. It costs 50,000 shillings. That training is so useful that if you deliver quality service, they're able to become a mediator after that. And by doing that, you're opening them up to more avenues of practice. We keep talking about bread and butter. Bread and butter is delivered by expanding the practice space so that we are all not doing the same thing. I am a mediator. I do not see lawyers in mediation. We struggle with mediators because appreciation of the law and breaking down issues is not easy. We are here and we are the ones who are able to do this, but we are not mediators. So cost, I think we need to reduce it by getting partners, but we need to be cautious so that we don't water down the quality. Secondly, when we look at, so I talked about the Legal Training Institute. Legal Training Institute will also allow us to extend trainings to non-lawyers. How will this help us? We will be generating sustainable income so that we are not wholly dependent upon our practice certificate fees. When you have sustainable financing, which is one of the things I have talked about in my manifesto, then you're able to minimize the costs to the members. That's the only way that's how I see us doing it. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to move to a question that I'm sure has come up in your various travails across the country, which is whether there is in fact marginalization within the profession. And it has come up in two aspects. One, whether in-house counsels receive the same attention as other practitioners. And the second one is whether there is the same treatment offered to senior and mid-bar lawyers as to young advocates. Some young advocates feel like we are overemphasizing the question of mentorship and learning and not enough the question of earning. Right? Some people feeling that the prioritization of programs, activities, focuses on those in practice over those who are in-house. So I would like to hear from you, what concrete measures can you propose that would support the interests of both young lawyers and in-house lawyers in terms of ensuring fair access to opportunities? There's a feeling that some people get prioritized in terms of access to opportunities, but also getting their lived realities finding expression within LSK programs and committees.
I've had the privilege to also become an in-house counsel at the county government of Machakos. And it is indeed the reality. We are highly marginalized. When I was in litigation purely, I never used to see it until I joined the county. When we go to council, even most of the representation, most of the agendas, they fall solemnly on practice issue. But when I joined there, I made sure my first agenda is to make sure our voices, our welfare aspect are also taken care of by the Law Society of Kenya. I proposed the formation of the first ever county devolved committee to take care of all in-house advocates who work in the county government. We do have an in-house committee in the Law Society, which I am a member, and my brother Vincent Gidagi is a convener together with Linda Kinyili, who are the co-conveners, but we felt like they were not still speaking on behalf of the county government. And once we formed that, we were able to achieve awareness, we were able to achieve visibility and viability, because finally the society is finally supporting advocates in the county governments who are talking about their welfare, their non-practicing allowance, their wage bill, and most importantly, the structure on how legal counsel work and operate within the county governments. It is something that I also aspire to continue doing and being a voice, not just the grandchildren, as they call us, the county governments, but also for all other in-house counsel, from national government to private practice. On the issue of the senior and mid-bar practitioners being left out. Indeed, I stand here as a bridge between that, because I'm old enough to see the wisdom as to why we need seniors back in the society. Seniors to bring back the basic formation and how we carried our issues and how we were able to maintain the nobility of the profession. I'm also young enough to be realistic to the new emerging areas of practice, young enough to know and to see and tell that indeed our voices, yes, they're being heard, but we do not receive that extent support. So if my myself as the next vice president, I will really want, give me 30 more minutes, seconds, please. I will really want to be the bridging gap between the seniors, the mid-bar practitioners, and also the young practitioners. Because I understand senior bar brings wisdom, but the young bar, they bring agility, they bring visionary, yet the mid-bar, they bring sobriety. So allow me to bring all these three together in one outfit. Yes.
It's associating with in-house councils. I haven't heard specific measures that you're going to take to centralize the interests of in-house council. So I would like to hear one or two, especially because you have been affected by the supposed marginalization.
First and foremost is the issue of fair play when it comes to remuneration, when it comes to promotion. It can even take a whole decade before a young lawyer is actually promoted in-house. Second issue, I will really want to speak up, and the Law Society is already speaking up, so it's a continuation, is the issue of non-practicing allowance. Some in-house practitioners actually enjoy this, while majority of us, who are the vast, we do not even see anything of that sort. It is high time we continue speaking this gospel of a fair play for all advocates. Because despite the fact that someone is more senior to me, it's all about experience and perception. But the work that you're also putting out there, it is still the same work. The interpretation, the advisory, the guidance, it is still the same task that you're also handling. So these are some of the things that we'll want to go propel for the sake of the in-house. And most importantly, also representation in the board. There was a motion during the last AGM for in-house counsel to be represented, but it was struck off because it did not adhere to the law. That's why the president struck it off. But we need them well represented. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, same question.
Thank you. I think what we need to do when it comes to in-house practitioners is to encourage them to participate more in LSK activities. I guess because of the time that, if you look at people in private practice and those who are in corporate, I think maybe the time also that they're able to work. Remember, their times are, let me say that they're highly limited. You're working within a particular structure, whereas people who are in private practice, it's a bit flexible. So maybe that's why it looks like they participate more in LSK activities. But I think what we need to do is encourage in-house counsel to actually participate more in LSK activities. In fact, they have even been in leadership. I'll give an example of Ms. Ndinda Kinyili, who was elected, and she was an in-house practitioner. And I think the Law Society of Kenya is not averse to actually embracing in-house practitioners when it comes to issues of LSK. After all, practice is practice. Another thing that I would say is that there is an in-house committee which actually champions their issues. And I've participated in some of the activities. They have even launched a mentorship program for the in-house counsel, which I think was a very good initiative. Key things that we should be doing, for which we have been doing, is fighting for the non-practice allowance for the in-house counsel. And where it is now is just an issue of implementation, really. So that is what LSK is fighting for. So that now it can ensure that there are decisions from courts that say that they are entitled to such allowances. So what LSK is doing now is fighting for the implementation. And also, like you had, there are not very many women when you go up the ladder in corporate. So we need to engage with the stakeholders on what steps and policies they can put in place to encourage even the women to be able to rise up more, even to the boards. When it comes to the mid-bar and senior, I think I agree that they have been very highly marginalized. Give me 30 seconds, please. They've been highly marginalized, and maybe the view out there is that their time is up. But I think it is good to have a holistic LSK. Remember, each band of members brings their own. There's something they bring in. There's something important they bring to the society. The young ones have the vigor. They have the relatively new information with them that they can impart even to us as seniors. And the seniors have the experience, and the age to go with that. So I think we all can actually work as one bar and be able now to transform our society. We need not just be working in cocoons.
All right. Thank you. Debora, same question. especially borrowing from your experience, I would like to hear what concrete measures can we put in place?
Okay, thank you. I think we need to realize that, first and foremost, practice is practice. That we agree on. There's no dispute. But how do we involve in-house? I'm glad my colleague said before, she took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to talk about the motion which I presented to the AGM to have a special position in council. Why? Because then you have somebody who understands and appreciates that area of practice. So that's water under the bridge. But I propose that we have that specific position. Why do I think we need that position? The rest of the council highlights specific issues. Even when you hear council speaking on issues, you will always hear about litigation matters, conveyance matters. Hardly, until recently, will you hear them talking about in-house matters. The non-practice allowance matter has come to fore because it's in court. And in my view, this is one of those situations where I think stakeholder management would work. The battle in court, it will just be a battle of mights. I think this is one of those key things where a boardroom situation, a conversation. Why? Because looking at it from the government side, they have state council that are employed and they're saying this work should be done in-house. The other side is saying we need work. There has to be a balance, yeah? And there has to be tangible actions arising from there. Because is it possible for in-house counsel to manage the work? I don't know, in some institutions it is, in some institutions it's not. But on the flip side, we also have to have a real conversation about certain, very few, there are not many, very few lawyers who have had situations of fraud. And that's the truth, we must address it. Because there are concerns about inflated fees and all. We can't just wish it away or push it under the carpet. But it's not all of us. It's not all our lawyers. So let's be honest from both sides and have that conversation. And then finally, just one point about marginalization, devolution. If you're talking about training, we need to devolve training. We need to devolve money to the branches so that they're also able to do training because they're marginalized.
Thank you all for those responses. I think they bring quite a lot of hope to the society. Now, we'd want to look at advocates' welfare. So, would wish to hear, in the position of Vice President, how would you strengthen the welfare systems for the advocates so that we address issues of mental health support, illness, and even crisis response for the advocates? Because we always get those emails just getting to know that yet another lawyer has transitioned. But behind it, there are so many stories. Some of them are illness, some of them are a collapsing practice and suicide. So how are we going to strengthen welfare for these lawyers?
I will start by mentioning, my peers call me Mama Welfare for a reason. When we didn't even have structures, when we didn't even have anything on how we can deal with welfare for the young lawyers, we formed the Young Bar Association to speak for us. And I was the first director of welfare. We started the initiative of ensuring we are doing this contribution when there is upon demise or upon distress. But I'll tell you this, that is not tenable. That's why, as a devolution convener, I asked myself, we've been able to launch out medical covers. The uptake is almost nil at the Nairobi branch. We've been able to launch medical covers at the national office. The uptake still is almost nil. What more can we do to ensure our welfare is dignified? So I went across board and I stumbled upon Nakuru Chapter Welfare Summit. They have a very beautiful welfare summit, which I took time to go and benchmark fully on how it works. This is a summit that brings all cadres of advocates together. That is seniors, mid-bar, and young lawyers. In this welfare summit, they have a patron. In this welfare summit, they have 15 cells. In these 15 cells, they are able to find all these three cadres of advocates. They decide among themselves how much they wish to contribute so that upon distress of a member, they'll be able to offset. Your welfare summit usually gives you 50,000, while the rest will hand you 10,000. So by the time you even start scratching your head to see how you're going to take care of your issue, you already have 190,000 cash. So in my position as a vice president, I really want to take this welfare summit that I have seen is working. It is not in theory, It is not on paper alone, but it is a working outfit. Kakamega chapter also benefited from it 2 years ago when they finally benchmarked it. Senior Rubua went ahead together with his team and conducted an virtual induction course to the Kakamega chapter. They embraced it. They are 1 year past it. Murang'a to be chapter were able also to take the same gospel to them. Allow me 30 more seconds. We're also able to take the same gospel to Murang'a to be chapter. And they embraced it even when they were coming up with their welfare policy document. It was able to reflect to what Nakuru chapter is doing. So my solution is to ensure all advocates feel dignified when it comes to welfare, but ensuring that structure that works at Nakuru chapter is well felt across board. Secondly, on the remuneration of advocates, in my capacity as a council rep of the Advocates Remuneration Order, I have been able to amend the Advocates Remuneration Order with a cap increment of 46% as per the advisory that we got from The Economist. So my interests are to ensure welfare is not just felt at the courtroom, but also at the workplace, and also do good collaboration with the ABA, which is now the welfare outfit of advocates. Unfortunately, we feel it posthumous, but when we are alive, through the structure that we've learned from Nakuru, together with ABA, we can continue improving to all other chapters. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Wanjeri, as you respond, maybe you'll tell us what could be the reason for the low uptake of the medical, if you've touched base on that in your serving at council.
Well, I really wouldn't know why members are reluctant to take up the medical cover, but once we have negotiated for it, then and since it is not mandatory, then we leave it to the members now to make the decision whether to take it up or not. Members have not given us feedback on why they're not taking it up, but perhaps that is something LSK should be able to look into and find out why they're not taking it up. Let me now respond to the question that you had asked. Welfare, of course, is a key mandate of the Law Society of Kenya. And I keep saying that one of the key stabilizers of welfare is financial stability. Now, in my agenda, my key agenda is that we need to look into how we can lobby and advocate for the legal profession with a view to increasing our practice areas. As it is now, we are all actually now dealing with a few areas, majority of which is conveyancing and running down. But we need to look into expanding those areas. And my proposal would be establishment of a lobbying department at LSK, which can look into areas that the legal profession can entrench themselves into and tap into untapped practice areas. Another thing that I would also want to pursue when it comes to mental health in collaboration with the ABA, I think we need to look into having longer mental health seminars, preferably 1 day or 2 day seminars, so that now they can be more impactful for the members. And looking at it in the long term, as part of our corporate social responsibility, I think we should look into going into law schools so that we not only do mentorship, but we also are able to prepare the students that are coming from the law schools into entry to the profession, so that they not only manage their expectations, but they know what they're coming into when they come into the profession. Another thing I would want to pursue is more strategic partnerships with other stakeholders. I've been able to pursue one such agreement with KMA, IMLU, and LSK, where we are actually imparting skills to our members. And I think those kind of collaborative agreements should, give me 30 seconds, please. Those kind of collaborative partnerships should be encouraged in future. Thank you.
While you still have the floor, Elizabeth, because my colleague asked a question about the medical scheme and why there hasn't been uptake of it. And the concern that we have is institutionalization of welfare, not just ad hoc responses, right? Mm-hmm. And I think my question would be, to what extent is data or information a basis for decision making where welfare questions are concerned? To what extent do you gather information from members? before you put in place mechanisms? And if not, are you going to be doing that in the future?
Yes, I think the data is not robust, I must admit to that, and that is something we should look into. And that's why I said we need to look into why members have not taken it up. Maybe it's a prohibitive, the cost is prohibitive, so we need to look into that and see how now we can better improve it. But also now let me add to that I've seen in some branches where they have negotiated also medical cover, so that could also play part in that maybe other branches had already negotiated. Like my chapter Mombasa has a welfare arm that has negotiated a medical cover, so that could also be a part of the reason why maybe it's not taken up. Or maybe other people have already taken up medical covers for themselves. So we need to look into that. I agree that is a weakness that needs to be looked into. Yes.
I'll tell you why it's not been taken up. It's prohibitive, the cost. That's as simple as it is. And we as ABA have done research. It's expensive. It's not that members do not want medical cover. They want it. But it's prohibitive. So what have we done? We are actually in the process of negotiating a medical cover, and you will have lawyers paying as low as 10,000 shillings to get a medical cover. We've come up with a tiered option where if you're able to afford 10,000, you will get a particular cover. If you're able to pay 20,000, because we know that members are in different stages of practice and different financial capability. I mean, I can't even afford a Bupa cover. The cover that is available is Bupa. I can't afford it, so who can afford it? So we have to be realistic. We have done research. We've asked members, we've done surveys, and we found that the cost is prohibitive. So we have that in place, and I hope that that will be concluded before my term. In the event that it is not concluded before my term, that's one of the things I have specifically said I must implement, a medical cover. Rwanda Bar Association has it, so it is doable, because when we are many, as opposed to an ad hoc medical cover, when we are many, we benefit from spreading the risk. That's how insurance works. We are 27,000. That's why we've been able to get that reduction. And it's institutionalized, so that we have a very specific cover for our lawyers. I would have loved to have this collaboration that we are talking about now when I served in the ABA.
Very shortly on pay, advocates' pay. Any initiative you'll take?
Advocates' pay is thank you. Advocates' pay is a very sensitive issue, I'll say that, because it's an employment contract. So it's not very easy to go into a firm and say, you must pay your lawyers this, but we can regulate. And I use the word regulate. And I go back to what I talked about of self-reporting, so that you have regulation where you have law firms reporting on an annual basis. We have this number of lawyers, we have contracted them, because the other thing is they have no contracts. So before you even talk about how much they're being paid, we must even start from they need to have contracts. Then secondly, beyond that, you'll have a foundation. I do know that in South Africa, there's regulation. And I'm going to research on that and see whether we can implement. For pupillage, there's a regulation. So we can actually do it, but we can start small by having reporting. And then, in addition to reporting, we can even have awards to encourage law firms to do this, so that we encourage those who are doing the right thing. When you celebrate the right thing, then you change culture positively.
I think in the interest of fairness, we should allow Elizabeth and Teresia to respond to the question of what would you do about advocates' pay.
Okay, I think it is true that there's an issue of underpayment in the legal profession. And I think given that most of the employers are private entities, we cannot compel them to pay a specific figure. But what I think we can do is to have stakeholder engagement. Let us come together with the employers, sit down and have a sit down and see if there's a way we can set a minimum amount that we can pay to our associates and employees. So that now, even looking at it, we are looking at a situation where we want holistic employees who actually give good output to the firm and to the employer. So I think the best best thing that we can do, what I would propose is let's have a dialogue with the employers so that we're able now to chart the way forward, how we can set minimums both for associates and for the pupils. Yes.
We cannot regulate private business, but LSK on its own, it's a self-regulating body to ensure the welfare of its members is well adhered. And we cannot be here preaching gospel, saying that we want to amend our advocates' remuneration order, yet the plights of the young advocates and pupils are also not regulated. We need to candidly have that conversation on how to ensure, as we also improve the standards of the employer by amending the ARO, how can we also ensure the living standards of also the pupil of an entry advocate is also well regulated. Just like what South Africa Bar has been able to do. They have regulated on issues to do with pupils and entry advocates. So it is something that as a society we also need to candidly take it upon. Not that we are going to be antagonizing the employers, but to have that round table conversations with the employers so that they see it is important we also motivate these young ones. We already have the Nairobi Legal Award that usually motivates people Master of the Year. What about also advocates has been mentioned by my colleague who actually remunerate and pay advocates at the market rate, which is at fair play. We also need to take such initiatives without fear. Thank you.
All right, so thank you for your responses. So we'll want to go to just one final area on law society, and then we'll be taking a short break after that. So we want to look at institutional accountability. And all of you have been in the society for a while. You realize that we always have governance disputes arising during the AGMs and SGMs. And yet, all across the countries, you'll find we have our members in the ICS, in different organizations. So among our membership, we have a lot of skill and experience on matters governance. But where does it fall through the cracks in the society, and how are we going to close that gap so that accountability is institutionalized in the council, in the secretariat, so that we don't have to keep waiting for the SGM or AGM to straighten up our issues. So how are we going to institutionalize accountability and just very professional running of our business? So we'll start with Debora. I think we've come back to you.
Governance, this is my favorite topic. For an institution to have proper governance practices, they must be anchored in policy. You cannot depend on individuals and the goodwill of individuals to have governance practices. Some will have the goodwill, some may not. So we must start from the policy perspective. For instance, when we say we need to separate the roles of secretariat and council, that must be anchored in policy, because as it is, we don't have that policy. So one of the first things we need to do is review our policies. Let's start from there. And I had said before, we must do a governance audit so that we know that this is where we stand. Because you cannot prescribe medication before you carry out a medical assessment. So let's find out what is the state, what is the governance state in the LSK. We know some of the problems, but I don't think we know the entirety of it. So a governance audit will tell us what we need to do and where we are failing and where we need to improve. That's number one. 2, it must be anchored in policy. 3, I said this 4 years ago when I was sitting in this same spot, that we need to train our council members on governance. I think that's very important. But when we say train our council members on governance, I think it needs to be an in-depth training so that we are able to practice what we are preaching. I'll give just one example which I'm going to propose. I hope that the other council members will agree to it. Why can't we have a director's remuneration report? That's transparency and accountability. I have many other practical examples, but that's just one. Equity Bank posts director's remuneration, right? You know how much James Mwangi earns. You know how much Gideon Muriuki earns. Why can't the council do that? When information is shrouded in mystery, that is when you have disgruntled voices. Provide the information. That is what transparency is about. Give the information first. Yeah.
Elizabeth, same question. What can we do to institutionalize accountability within the council and the secretariat?
Yeah, I think apart from the policies that are there, I think I agree entirely that it's just an issue of setting up the structures that are able now to institutionalize accountability. But that said, we are currently reviewing our laws, and I think that gives us an ample opportunity as the legal profession to be able to give our views on how we can change our laws to be able to be up to standard and in modern times, and even taking into consideration the number that we are. Now, I would say that I have been a big champion of accountability and transparency. In fact, I did move a motion for establishment of a running conflict of interest register, which has improved transparency and accountability both at the Secretariat and in the Council. So I think in as much as we can say that it does not depend on goodwill, I think also the fact that some of these things are moved shows that there is political goodwill in having accountability in the Law Society of Kenya. Yes.
I want to just have one follow-up on that question of the conflict of interest register and the ERP system. There's been a lot of murmuring and buzzing about to what extent were council members involved in the procurement process, was there transparency and things like that. So I just want you to speak to the effectiveness of that initiative that you say you put in place.
It is relatively new, and this is something which was passed after the ABNO tender was awarded. So it hasn't, we haven't been able to analyze it and see the effectiveness because no conflict has arisen after that. But it is something that we should look into now, going into the next term, yes, because it is relatively new.
On the issue of institutional accountability, we do have existing policies that are in place. And in these existing policies, they're the ones that are already given the distinct role between a council member and the member of the secretariat. Once we are elected into council, we are always, we are expected to sign the oath of office that depicts that we understand our role from where it starts to where it ends, as per the Law Society Act, Section 4. Secondly, as per the Secretariat, once they are employed, as per the HR manual and the policies, they also sign a similar in their contract to ensure that they also understand their role. Thirdly, once we have new secretarial members, there's usually a period of induction where they're taken through trainings and induction. Similarly, at the Law Society, once we have a new council, we also go through the training of the tenets of corporate governance. It just so happens not every fruit in a tree will be able to ripe at the same time. Some will be able to adhere, others will choose their own folly and path. Thirdly, as we already have this existing, I will want to continue enhancing them and creating awareness to the members so that the members of the bar can be aware that you already have these measures. Secondly, I will also want to strengthen on the issue of implementation. As a vice president, you're going to be in charge of member service and going to have a very close working relationship with the secretariat. So on the issue of implementation, it needs to be very clear. It needs to be very well transparent to not just the council members, but also to the members of the bar, to understand how a process was initiated, the steps that are taken, because we serve in a council or a board that is a board of minutes. Meaning, everything that we discuss or we dispense it there, it is already recorded. So all this information as we have received in this council of members asking for a process that was done, I will ensure as a vice president, just like I ensured in my capacity as a general member, when members were asking for minutes, I was among the people who were also voting for, let the members have the minutes. Because as much as we are a house of documentation, we owe it to our members to be aware of what we are doing so that they can have that trust and faith in us on matters accountability. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for your responses to the 3 thematic areas and the questions that we had posed in that regard. We want to give you a chance to just breathe, take a glass of water, stand and stretch if you need to. And that will also give our online audience a chance to think through whatever questions they may want to pose to you, together with our in-person audience. So in 5 minutes, we will resume and we will take questions from the audience. So we'll encourage our online audience to just put questions on our platform. We will be curating those questions and we'll be posing them to the panel after the break. Thank you. So 5 minutes.
All right, so we are ready to go to the final session, so we could gather and get going.
All right, we will request members to be seated so that we can conclude today's debate. If we could kindly take your seats, and if we could have the candidates come take their seats at the stage, it would also be very good. We will endeavor to make sure we are done in the next half hour, so if you could kindly cooperate with us, we would be very grateful. So we will give priority to those in-house, those who are appearing in person, to pose questions to the candidates. So if you have a question that you would like to pose, I would like you to just indicate by a show of hands, just so we know to come to you. Okay, I've seen 2 hands already. So let's see it. So that's number 1, ma'am, you'll be number 1, and then number 2. If there's any other questions in the auditorium, please do take your seat so that I can see where you are located. We will give priority to those who are in the auditorium to ask their questions before we go to the online questions. So I've seen 1, 2, there's a lady there, 3, that I saw a gentleman, 4. Is there anyone else with a question? Okay, I will just take those 4. So I will start. Okay, 5. Thank you very much. So what I will do is I will start with the lady. If I could, you have the microphone with you. So please just state your name and who you would like to address your question.
So thank you for the opportunity to ask the question.
Kindly let me request you to stand just so we can see you better. Thank you.
That then we settle for vice president position as the president position then is reserved for the others? Is it something of a concern? What are your thoughts around it? Thank you.
Okay, just to make it easy, let me take the 5 questions and then you will respond to them in turn. So there was a gentleman here. If I could have the microphone come to him.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Wavinya. I have a question to all the candidates. How do you intend to utilize the male members of the profession within and even others, but other partners in achieving the objectives that FIDA has? How do you intend to use, utilize, and encourage the males to achieve the objectives that FIDA intends to achieve? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. There was a lady in that corner, so I'll have the microphone go to her first. Please state your name and then the question that you would like addressed.
My name is Sharon Adhiambo Yoko. My question is to all the vice presidential candidates. In most law firms, female advocates are not given maternity leave. And if they do, it is unpaid. And I also understand that getting pregnant is a reason for someone to get fired. How are you planning to cure this?
Thank you. I think that's a recurring theme. How do we ensure protection, employment, labor laws are implemented within our law firms? There were two other questions. There was a gentleman. So let the microphone go to the gentleman, and then I'll come to you, ma'am.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Hesbon Oko. I have two brief questions to all the candidates. The first one is, if elected to the office, how do you wish members of the bar to measure your success in the first year into the office, and particularly maybe on the issue of bread and butter? The secondly, at least you've seen there's been a decision, the one in Nakuru, they're concerned by the members that there is a shrinking in the practice area. What is your comment on that?
Thank you. It seems welfare is going to be a central theme of the questions. Let's have the final question, and then we'll allow you to respond.
Thank you, our moderators. Thank you, Vice President candidates, for doing a good job. Thank you. My name is Caroline Haswa. I represent colleagues on the Nairobi branch senior bar. I request to ask two questions, one to Debora and two for the sitting council members. My first question to Debora is this. Debora, just following up on the question of welfare and external counsel as you traverse it with internal counsel. My own thinking is that you cannot solve the problem of external counsel and work or internal counsel without focusing on the national treasury budget and the GDP question. What would be your corporate input on that? For the sitting council members, Tess and Wanjeri, my question is, why is it that members are heard, are listened to, but they are not heard? This is because the AGM resolutions are actually not enforced. This is because despite us passing in 2018, reporting for statutory organizations, representatives on how they help us when they are there, bring work to us, and how our input in the AGM is then reported every quarter. Like tomorrow, you're going to launch the tower. And on a sincere note, we have not seen the development approvals. We have not seen the drawings. We have not seen the budget. We are the owners. Even if you're building a toilet in your home, is it possible that the builder, the architect, or the fundi can start building that toilet without you approving? What is the challenge? Do we need to go through Article 35 to get our basic documents as the owners? Thank you.
Thank you to all the people who have asked questions. So we'll just give you an opportunity to respond. Allow me to reverse the order for the answers since we began with Teresia, and in the responses we'll begin with Debora. So we want to allocate you 2 minutes first. If you need extra time, you'll let us know, but let's start with 2 minutes. Thank you.
How do you like us to answer? Because there are 5 questions.
Okay, let's start with you answering all the questions rather than coming back and forth.
Okay, thanks. The first question was by Ms. Odur about the deputy trap. Indeed, it is a reality that sometimes women, we find ourselves in the deputy trap. However, I'll say that in my own case, I think it is, I'm a realist, so I'm realistic. So this is the step which I saw would be most strategic and most timely in terms of my trajectory. We saw the same trajectory with Faith, and I think you know where she landed after that. We do not fear to rise to the occasion when it is presented. Secondly, how to use the men, how to use the men to champion the cause of women. I think that was Hesbon? Bosire. There's something called he for she. Sometimes we feel like this fight is only a fight that women must take on. Yes, we lead the fight, but we have many men who support the cause. And so he for she, I'll just say he for she. So you can be part of this fight. But having said that, I will say that I remind you that we serve both male and female lawyers. So let's not lose sight of that, even as we champion the specific issues and concerns of our women lawyers. So be part of the conversation. When we say that you should report on sexual harassment, and when we say that you should tell us, your firm, whether you have policies that are actually encouraging women in your firm, please give us those reports. As a man, you will be doing that. We have very many firms that are owned by men. The third question was about maternity leave by Ayoko. My response to you is that this should be handled under the same ambit that I said about having regulation. Because yes, it's a term of employment, and so you cannot compel, but you can encourage by having regulations, specific regulations, and then you have the firms reporting. Yeah? 2 minutes is not enough. I have 3 more questions, so may I request for more time? Okay, thank you. The fourth question was by Hesbon. How do we measure our success when we are elected to office, when I am elected to office, and particularly on the bread and butter and the shrinking areas of practice? So we've said many things about shrinking areas of practice. I think the way that we can measure that is just to get feedback. Feedback from members. The only way that you can know how you're doing is to have a mirror. Ask members, how are we doing? Yeah? I would want to be measured by having a reduction in, I don't want to call it noise, in the clamor that members have had that practice spaces are shrinking. And you can tell by just doing a survey. Yeah? The current council has done absolutely well in terms of rule of law, but to be honest, practice spaces and practice areas have been a bit neglected. So I think how members feel and how members, the feedback from members will tell how well I'm doing. That is the only way you can measure me. Yeah? Welfare. I think that was the last question by Kasoa. Welfare, the National Treasury budget, definitely it's a conversation. We can't have this conversation. And I think I'd mentioned before you walked into the room that there has to be a balance. You missed that part. There has to be a balance because enhancing a legal department requires you to enhance the capacity. So it means you're talking about human resource, capital costs, etc. And that comes from the national budget. So it must have been done from the word go, yeah, when the budget is being done. Yeah? So we cannot ignore that conversation. And that's why I said before you walked in that this conversation has to be in a boardroom and not in the courtroom.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. So we'll have 3 minutes to respond to all the questions. The floor is yours, Elizabeth.
Okay. I don't think that it's an issue of women falling into a deputy president trap. I think sometimes it just happens to be coincidence, and there's nothing you can do about that. But also, looking at my position, I thought it was more realistic to run for vice president than jump into president in itself, because that is requires more responsibilities, which I feel I was more ready for the deputy president role than for the president role. When you say that how we can utilize male members, I think men are front and center when we are talking about women and children and their rights. And I find that men are very empathetic. They only need to be given sensitization on issues that affect women and children, the impact, and they will be able to cross over. So I think we cannot do without them. We just need to sensitize them on the issues, on the impacts of some of the things that happen to women, and they will be able to support the cause. When it comes to how you would want to measure success, I think success definitely, I would want 2 things I would want to do. I would want to get feedback from members on how we are performing, but most importantly, I would want to do release periodic reports, preferably every 4 months, on how we are discharging our mandates and things that we have been able to achieve. On shrinking practice areas, I had said that in one of my key agendas is having a department that will actually lobby for increasing, for us to identify areas which are new and we can entrench ourselves in, so that we can not only increase our practice environment, but our practice areas, but we can also protect the existing practice areas. I think when it comes to why members' resolutions are not adhered to, I think in this case, my view is that members should have access to information in as far as how the society is being run. And that is something I have consistently championed in my 2 years in office. I may not have been successful, but I have championed for that. Now I also want to challenge members. When you see that the members' resolutions are not adhered to, why don't you put your leaders to task on why they are not following or implementing members' resolutions? Because as far as I know, the membership is supreme. Thank you.
Teresia, still 3 minutes.
Thank you for those questions. I'll first want to address the question by Ms. Caroline Oduor. Indeed, we have seen so many females falling into that trap, not just in the law society, but in so many boardrooms where we are believed to be the tea servers. But we are here to remind all of us, for effective leadership to be at play, all genders on merit should be considered. As a deputy president or the vice president of the Law Society of Kenya, this is not a position that is ceremonial. This is a position that is in the statute, and this is also a position that is very complementary to the president's position. As the president sets the tone, it is the task of the vice president to ensure that tone that is going to be sent is going to be very firm and effective and include good corporate governance to all at play. So as much as it is something that is out there as a societal issue, we are now here affirming that we must be seen, heard, and allowed to lead. On the issue of how we can bring on board more FIDA friends, Mr. Bosire, my good friend, in FIDA, we have something called Friends of FIDA. That's why you're seeing one of the moderator is also a male. Because the issue that FIDA tackles and speak upon, they're not just female-based or gender-based, but they are real societal issue. GBV cuts across to all. Femicide is the only thing that is only for a female gender, but issues to do with sexual harassment, issues to do with land inheritance, issues to do with what I've seen FIDA really going out front on the pro bono, even fair administrative action. They are out there not just for the girl child, but for all. That's why we have Friends of FIDA. The reason why FIDA is on the forefront for the girl child, it's because during inception, the societal has always been patriarchy. And now it is high time for both matriarchy and patriarchal societal norms can be merged and effectively propel the society together. So in my leadership as the vice president, I will ensure FIDA continue involving male of the society to continue helping us in handling these societal issues. On the issue of maternal unpaid leave, it's an unfortunate scene that we are seeing recurrently every day in the workplace of an advocate. And it's so unfortunate that we are the same people who go out there defending the rights of employees when they are disgruntled in the employment section. So I will ask all of us as advocates, can we please adhere to the Employment Act and ensure when one of us has to go through maternity leave, we have friendly conditions, because for our society to propel, we must give birth. If we don't give birth, it's going to come to an end. So can we please adhere to what is at play? On the issue of measuring the success, as I've continued and I'll continue doing, my leadership style is always consultative, is always inclusive. So I will come back to the grassroots through the WhatsApp fora, through the emails, and the already prescribed provided for us to engage with members, to feel and engage and understand if they're feeling my leadership and if they're feeling any different impact being laid upon. Allow me 30 more seconds. On the issue of the AGM resolutions not being adhered and heard, I want to confirm that in this current council, we sat down and actually executed all the AGMs, proposals that were laid down. But one thing that I learned, at times we put in motions without looking at the bigger picture. And that's why at times you see council coming not to contradict the motion that was placed, because at the end of the day, members are supreme, but we usually just coin it to ensure the motion is alive, but it is realistic to the working structure of the Law Society of Kenya. On the issue of the Nakuru matter, we need to be very honest with each other. It is a very vexatious petition, because if indeed they were the intention was to ensure good usage of public funds. They will have included all other service providers who are procured by national or county governments to give them services, yet they are existing professionals in the so-called departments that they exist. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just checked online to see what our online audience is saying, and it seems the themes that have come out from our in-person audience are similar. Just concerns about affirmative action, which we spoke to earlier, the question of the non-practice allowance, which came through earlier, the question of accountability of the council. Does the council exist just to take members' resources without accounting to members? That's also something that has come through in our conversation. There's also a question which came through earlier, which I would like all of you to respond to, which is particularly on the question of femicide. And so the question that has been posed by Goer M is, given the rising cases of femicide and sexual violence, what role should LSK play beyond issuing statements? So just back to my earlier question, what else is in your toolbox that you're proposing? What innovative ideas do you have? We have been accustomed to the protests, the statements. What else can we do? Okay, allow me to just start this way because we just finished with Teresia. So, go ahead, Debora.
I think from femicide has one of the key things is how it is handled from a legal perspective, how it is defined. We don't have a special definition for femicide. So I think that's where we need to start. And as lawyers, how do we contribute? How does LSK, I'll speak to how LSK contributes to that conversation. LSK is tasked with the responsibility of advising on legislation, both the government and the public, etc. We are involved in the process of legislative making, so we need to be part of that conversation. There are two schools of thought, that it needs to be handled under the criminal offenses, but there's another school of thought. So we need to sit down and look at how is it being handled. Does it need a special crime, so that it is properly addressed? That's one. Do we have these cases in the legal profession? We don't. So this is a general question with regards to an issue that affects the society. So the particular role of the vice president may not have a direct contribution with that in that regard, but how LSK as a whole can contribute is one, legislation, but also two, stakeholder engagement. This squarely falls under FIDA mandate, and FIDA and LSK partner in different activities. So that's an opportunity for partnership. Yeah.
Elizabeth, what new measures would you be proposing on the femicide question?
Okay, first and foremost, I think it's high time LSK got involved in research on the causes of such kind of acts against women. And then we should also amp up our sensitization of the society on such kinds of crimes and why, the effects they have on women and the society in general. Now, a thing that we should be pursuing, and which is not talked about a lot, is how we need to go back to eroded family values and societal norms, which we basically ignore, but is front and center in this issue. But last and not least is that eventually we will have to go the legislative way, because as you have seen, 1 in every 5 women is being murdered because they are women, and that is statistics which are out there. So we need to have legislative measures that actually act as a deterrent.
Thank you. I think this has already come from my earlier question about data, but I think one of the underutilized tools within the law society is research and cross-society collaboration. What are other jurisdictions doing about these questions? What have regional bodies determined on these questions? What have other courts determined on these questions? I would be very curious to see the law society pick up those kinds of collaboration. And I'm glad that you're also talking about non-legal measures. As lawyers, we want to hammer everything with the tool of the law. But I'm very curious as to what other interdisciplinary measures the Law Society can consider, because it's a societal problem, not just a legal problem. Teresia, I would like to hear from you as well. What would you be proposing?
You're right, it is a societal problem. And first and foremost, we need to make sure when we are creating this awareness on femicide, we are bringing on board all societal members so that they understand it is not just a female gender issue, but it is a societal issue. Once we be able to break that barrier where it is seen as just a female issue, I believe we'll now finally bring everybody on board. Secondly, from the other jurisdictions, as we have seen, the Institute of African Lawyering Women, they have gone ahead to actually legislate a very good policy that they're put in front on the issue of gender and equality at the workplace and also away from the workplace. Because we don't just face femicide just within our hometowns or at the workplace, but also from the external factors. They have been able to collaborate with the Ghana Bar and actually ensured majority of the law firms in Ghana, like the first 5-tier firms in Ghana, have also adopted that policy. As a Law Society of Kenya, we already have a sexual harassment and anti-bullying policy. Why don't you also be proactive in coming up with the femicide policy, the femicide legislation, so that we be able to finally define what is this femicide? As it is well known, in the criminal law, the penal code, it provides just assault and other crimes, but there's no real definition. So as a law society, we need to borrow what we have seen actually working out there and be able to implement. But the first thing that we need to do is to bring on board everybody in the society to understand that femicide is a societal problem, not just a gender problem.
Thank you for highlighting the incredible work that has been done by the Institute for African Women in Law. I'm a member of that institute, and they've done fantastic work in terms of gathering data across bar associations, and I would highly encourage the Law Society to do that. It is very difficult to formulate programs or policies without data. You're shooting in the dark, right? So I would like to encourage similar initiatives from the bar here so that your responses are based on what has already been established through data rather than hoping that you're hitting the nail on the head without actually knowing where it is. So with that, I'd like to come to the end of our debate today. I'm sure much to your relief. Thank you to everyone who is present in the auditorium and also to everyone who has joined us online. I think it's clear from the discussion today that there are 3 thematic areas that you must think about as you continue your campaigns and as a membership vote. 1, the society is looking for credible leadership. It's not enough that you want to lead. Can we trust you? Are we safe in your hands, as we say in political spaces? Number 2, the urgency of institutional accountability. We don't want to have to wait to be called for an SGM or an AGM to address our questions. As someone is asking, as you're groundbreaking tomorrow, do members know what we're groundbreaking for? What is the budget? Have we approved it? Those questions must be answered directly, not just when members ask for those questions to be answered, but proactively. And then thirdly, a profession that works for everybody, man, woman, young, mid-age, old. People want to know that they belong in this profession. Finally, we also want to see a society that is balancing between the welfare of the members and its role in the society, a society that is speaking to the vulnerable, but simultaneously speaking the truth to power. That is what we expect of the Law Society. The strategic plan is coming up. We want to see a strategic plan that converts values into decisions. We don't want decisions that are valueless. We want advocacy taking institutionalization. And finally, we want your manifestos to move into enforceable decisions. So we hope that as members are ultimately deciding, they're not just deciding based on the boldness of the candidates, but truly on how effectively you will govern them if and when you join the council. With that, we wish you the very best, and we look forward to continuing to engage with you on the campaign trail. Allow me now to invite the Vice Board Chair of FIDA to close, but before she does, I'm informed that the board will take a picture with the 3 candidates, so you'll remain on stage. The board will join you for a photo. Thank you very much.
You can breathe, eh? Tess, I can see you are smiling very, very broadly. Wasn't that an exciting session? Was it very informative? Remember what one of our moderators has said, that we vote based on the issues that have come out as opposed to the boldness or the eloquence of our candidates. But all of them are up to the task. Now, just a slight amendment to the program. Since we are in the season of elections and there are some candidates here, let me invite our board chair here. She has one or two things to say very, very briefly. No, you have to clap for the chair as she comes, please.
Thank you. I don't know if we should allow our vice president candidates to now go back to their seats. Do you feel comfortable here, ladies, or do you want to go? So let's clap for them. Continue clapping until they sit down. You've done very well, ladies. Congratulations. You gave your all. Thank you so much. Clap for them until they sit down. Thank you so much. Now, you've heard that FIDA-Kenya and LSK, we are very critical partners. I know there are candidates who are here who are vying for various positions. This is the opportunity for them to come in. I want to invite you, if you are here and you're a candidate for the LSK election in the next 2 weeks, please come. We will allow you to just say one thing. I've seen a couple of you. Bosire, I think I saw. Please, if you're here, do not shy away. This is your opportunity. There are like maybe 2 or 3. I've been told that there is a representative of one of the presidential candidates. If you're here, also come, so that we give you the opportunity to just say something. For the candidates, please come. Please walk a bit faster. Could I have another microphone for them? Is there another microphone? Oh, they are here. So what we'll do, we'll allow you to say your name. I'm just going to give you 1.5 minutes to persuade the target audience that are here why they should elect you. We'll start with you, madam. Your name, which position are you vying for? In that order. Yes.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Jacqueline. I am not vying for any position. I am here on behalf of Senior Counsel Charles Kanjama, who you all know is vying for the position of President of the Society. Allow me to first start by thanking FIDA, who organized this debate. I believe it has been a very good platform for us to engage and listen to the vice presidential candidates. As has been said, the discussions were very insightful and informative. So one of Kanjama's slogans is strong LSK for all. As today's debate has confirmed, we need a society or leadership of LSK that is willing to engage and continually listen to its members, not only in identifying the issues and concerns that members are facing, but also in coming up with meaningful and lasting solutions. So if given the opportunity, Kanjama will provide a platform for members to come up with solutions for these concerns that have been raised here today and in other forums. So to have an LSK that is strong for all, vote for Charles Kanjama. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a clap.
Good evening, colleagues. Good evening again. Yes, my name is Bosire Bonyi. Bosire Bonyi. I'm vying for the position of General Member Representative to the Council, and I'm here to beg for your support. There's quite a lot that I intend to do. Number one, I really appreciate that FIDA has played a very important role in ensuring that the rights of their membership are respected accordingly, and I'm here to assist. I've served you previously in the public interest litigation. I have so many pro bono cases that are deserving that even FIDA could comfortably have taken up. Therefore, I have the grit to assist FIDA, to assist LSK, and to assist the membership in terms of their objectives. I'm praying for your support. And remember, when the day comes, Bosire Bonyi, General Member. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sharon Adhiambo Oyoko. I am an advocate who practices in Kisumu. I also serve as a council member for West Kenya. I am vying for the position of upcountry representative in the coming LSK elections. I am also a member of FIDA-Kenya. And as you vote for me, just remember that you will have available and accessible leadership in me. Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Modoni Gashara Cynthia. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I am also privileged to serve the people of the advocates of Nairobi as a council member in Nairobi branch. And I am also a FIDA member since my second year in campus. I have served the people of the Nairobians advocates, and I am seeking to serve all members of LSK as an LSK Nairobi representative. I am tried and tested, and I'm going by the right agenda: rule of law protection, independence of the bar, efficiency in courts, and devolution of resources to the branches. Asanteni sana, na waomba mnipe kura 19th of February 2026. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. My name is Efi Sheila Cheng. I currently serve you at the branch of Nairobi as a council member. In that council, I convene the Welfare Committee. I have served you before in the Young Lawyers Committee. I have served the society in the Welfare Committee, and I now convene the Welfare Committee of the branch. I'm seeking to be your next Nairobi representative. I'm running on a mantra of keep believing, because the idea to run is out of our shared experiences, especially the welfare experiences that the people of Nairobi live through. I have been your welfare convener. I have convened activities around welfare. So welfare for me is not an idea to vie on. It is something I live every day. And that's why Nairobi people call me Mama Welfare. My name is Efi Sheila Cheng. I am running to be your Nairobi representative, and I ask for your vote and your support. I am also a member of FIDA. Thank you.
Good evening, members. My name is Ms. Kirui. I'm here on behalf of our candidate, so I'm not vying. The candidate is Vivian Eyase. She's going for the general member representative to the council, and she's requesting for your support.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sabrina Adika. I am not a candidate, but I'm here on behalf of Wycliffe Odhiambo Oyo. He's currently serving as council member in the Nairobi branch. He's seeking your mandate to serve in the National Council as a Nairobi representative. He is a servant leader, and that is why he's saying he is ready to serve. Please remember Wycliffe Odhiambo Oyo for Nairobi rep. Ukipenda Oyo daktari. Thank you.
You're done? Thank you so much. Let's give them a clap. Offering yourself for leadership is not easy, and I'm happy we have very, very young advocates offering themselves for leadership. Let's give them a clap again. Thank you. All right, so at this particular point, let me hand over back to our board secretary to take us through the last part of our program.
Okay, at this point, we are finalizing the program. Let me call the vice chair of the board to come and give closing remarks. A round of applause for her as she comes.
Thank you, Angela. Good evening, everyone. I think the event has actually come to an end, and I think it has come to an end with a very good ending here, listening to also the other candidates who are here, apart from the candidates that we had. So I think you'll also agree with me that we met our objectives, the objectives that we had set for today. The first one was to provide a platform for what we are calling issue-based elections in the Law Society of Kenya, that every other time we see the candidates speaking to us, they're speaking to us about issues that are quite important to us as lawyers, to the society, and just generally even to women and girls here in Kenya. And I think all the candidates have done well. In fact, one of the things that we wanted to recognize them here today is to speak about the quotes of Theodore Roosevelt. As we reflect and celebrate that they've put themselves out to lead us, it recognizes that credit belongs to the man, of course in this case it's the woman, who actually is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat and blood. So please join me in giving a hand of applause, a hearty hand of applause to the candidates, the 3 candidates who we had here, for taking time to join us and for making sure that they articulated well LSK issues and of priority to the members and welfare, societal issues, and also gender issues which are dear to FIDA-Kenya. So please, let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the candidates for making time to present yourself. And I'm sure that the Law Society members, FIDA-Kenya members have heard you today, including the people of Kenya, and we wish you well. Please allow me to also acknowledge the other people who've played a big role to make this forum a success. We, of course, have the FIDA-Kenya members. Thank you so much. You've seen them online. You see them here. Thank you so much for joining us. Our colleagues from the Law Society of Kenya, it was a pleasure partnering with you in this event. Our audience, we have had over 150 participants here today, both virtually and both here present. Our esteemed moderators, again, let's give them a round of applause. I think they've done justice today, and they've ensured that we've had a credible debate here. So thank you so much to the work that you've done. We really appreciate you. The FIDA-Kenya board, thank you so much. I think you'll be able to see them after this session. Thank you so much for your leadership, and also to thank our host, Daystar University. We are here courtesy of Daystar University, who provided this room for us to be able to advance this debate today. And lastly, of course, the university students, FIDA-Kenya partners who are here with us today, the FIDA-Kenya Secretariat, led by the Executive Director here, Sophie Kaiberia. Thank you so much for planning this event and supporting us. Also, the media who are here and present and who are televising this, thank you so much. And lastly, of course, the agents of the candidates who've made time to come here today to also be able to advance the priority areas of the other candidates who are not here with us. So I thank you once again on behalf of FIDA-Kenya, and we say please continue supporting candidates. Please ensure that they continue sticking to issue-based elections. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much to our Vice Chair of the board. Now, the very last thing, we all know that if there is no photo, then it did not happen. Now, I would like to invite the moderators and the members of the board so that we come here, we take a group photo over here as we finalize. Yes, candidates and members of the board and the moderators. Karibuni sana. And members who are present, please, we are going to say just after the photo, we are going to say a short prayer to close because we opened with a word of prayer. And as we are exiting, there are some small snacks. They are just a bit of refreshments because we know it has been a long afternoon. So as you leave, please don't leave empty-handed. We need to replenish our glucose levels.